Hello to all of our listeners out there in podcast land, and welcome to
What was that you were saying about editing?
Yeah.
One of these days you'll get it, Andrew. Don't worry. One of these days.
Hello to all of our listeners out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 41 of the Canadian Patriot podcast, recorded on August 28th, 2016. Tyler, could your ice be any louder?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's this microphone, man. You can hear my hair growing on this thing. I'll mute it. I'll mute myself.
That voice and the ice cubes you're hearing is Tyler. Tyler's a gun-toting capitalist, pro-liberty Canadian, and advocate for market-based solutions to our political and social problems. He's an amateur historian for the Pinochet regime and competes with Kevin O'Leary's Common Sense Militia shooting team, sponsored by the Wolf Cola Company. He also co-hosts the International Liberty or Death podcast. Hey, Tyler, how's it going?
It would be going better if you could make it through my intro without stumbling on your words, but, I'm doing all right.
The alcohol, the drinking, the random ice cubes in the background happens.
Glad to be here. Happy to be back. I've been away for a little while, so I'm excited for this episode.
You've been missed. I got fan mail. There was at least one dude telling us we wanted Tyler back.
Nice.
That was probably Tyler writing in his house.
Yeah, it was one of my stock accounts, yeah.
We've
I'm my
also
own
got
self-sustaining economy.
as well. You should be. We've also got Gavin. Gavin's a business owner, gun enthusiast, hunter, atheist, and host of the Greater Toronto Area chapter of the Tactical Beer Owners Club. Hey, Gavin.
Hey.
How's it going?
Pretty good. You?
It's been interesting. The voice that you haven't heard yet. Sorry, go ahead.
And we're only in the intros, yeah.
Yeah. The voice that you haven't heard make fun of me yet is Marty. Marty's a sport shooter and hunter from Southern Ontario. Marty's also the Supreme Speaker of the Chatham-Kent Flat Earth Society. Hey, Marty. How's it going?
Hey, that's a very factually accurate intro you have for me today.
As always, I'm your host, Andrew. I'm a libertarian competitive shooter, gear reviewer at everydaytactical.com, and a firearms instructor.
Then we'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. And if you're an Apple person, you can find us on the iTunes. And if you leave a 5-star review, when you do that, leave a comment as to what you would like me to drink on the show, and that just might happen. Just like the strawberry daiquiris last time I was on that ended up ruining me. I got way drunker than I thought I was.
That's okay. I got made fun of for the office smelling like 12-year-old girl's lip gloss.
Nice. After that show, I went to go lay down in bed, and I actually had the spins. I was like, whoa.
Nice.
So
I thoroughly approve. What are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking Steam Whistle this evening. I know I still have some ciders to drink, as per another 5-star review, but I will get those next time.
Right on. Tyler, what is in the glass full of ice cubes?
That was a monster, because I was working until about 7:30. But now I'll be transitioning to Shock Top Belgian White.
Very nice. Marty, are you drinking?
Yeah, I am Grimbergen tonight. So I have their double Ambry.
That is a solid choice. I very thoroughly approve.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
You're going to have to put that in the show notes, though, because I'm not typing that out.
Sure thing.
Thanks. I'm drinking Black Swan's IPA from my local brewery. Okay, awkward transition.
That was called an editing pause.
That's an editing pause. All right.
For these awkward transitions, you got to have like the bass riff that they play after somebody cracks a bad joke on Storage Wars.
I have no idea what any of those things are.
You've never seen Storage Wars? It's awful.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out of my way to watch it now. All right.
We'll talk about it later.
Dude, they go through like 100 and 120 lockers and maybe find 2 or 3 good items. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
that are stage put there by the show.
Yeah.
I can't tell if you're messing with me or if this is a reference to a YouTube video.
Once there was a locker, it was full of pews. I don't know what they were for. They didn't look like church pews.
What other kind of? No, I'm back.
Yeah, abort while you can. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Otherwise, I'm getting sucked into this, and it's going to be Canadian Patriot short.
This is why we have editing pauses.
All right, let's do something lighter because I'm actually in a pretty good mood right now. Let's
Let's
talk
fix that
about
by talking about the state.
no. Let's talk about Rick Wood's course with Fire Art Solutions training in London a couple weeks ago. Gavin and I went down to London, and we did active killer defense.
Yeah, I had a great time. I mean, I am fat and out of shape, so it was definitely a lot more physically demanding than I thought the course would be, but I think it was good overall.
That's your entire review
Is
of
that
like,
it? It was good overall.
we spent 8 hours in class, and that's your entire review is I'm fat and out of shape.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, it was good. I was waiting for you to chime in something, and maybe we could banter back and forth. But if you want my full review, I think Rick did a good job. I do think it was really good that Rick had an actual like Krav Maga instructor. Dan, was it? I can't remember his last name, but he does classes out of Wellington Fitness in London, Ontario, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, I think his name was Dan, and I think he's a professional Krav Maga instructor.
Yeah, it was really good having him going over some stuff and like, simple moves that like anyone, even fat, out of shape dudes like myself can do. And I mean, I think they could easily have turned that into a weekend-long course, but I think it was a good just basics, just sort of touching on things and giving people a bit of an eye-opener for some people that had never maybe even thought that they would need to know something like this, let alone use it.
Yeah, I want to go back to the eye-opener thing in a little bit. The course I thought was very good. I talked a little bit about it last week when I was all by myself because all my friends bailed on my show. But anyway, I liked the way that Rick broke the course up between the lecture instruction and the physical stuff because I don't think I could have done a half day of like unarmed combat stuff. I would have died because I am also fat and out of shape.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both said that for several days after we were both quite sore.
Oh, God. I got wailed on so good by a couple of dudes that are my size or slightly bigger, because I'm like, yeah, sure, I've done martial arts stuff before. I've done like armed and unarmed combat stuff. Sure, I'll hold the pad. And then I got beat on by a guy who does like competitive Krav Maga for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
that was less than a pleasant, because I figured, oh, he's gonna pair me up with somebody like me, right? No, I'm getting hit by the training dummy who's another like competitive Krav Maga guy. It's like that's awesome. Really enjoyed getting hit a lot.
If only we could have got that on video.
We all know that being beat on by a guy is better than being beat off by a guy.
Well, you might know that, but I have no personal experience. I'll take your word for it.
I think that's what those pews that Tyler was talking about were for.
Terrible. No, I enjoyed the course. I also thought it was interesting. I wasn't expecting Rick to have another instructor there, and I thought it was really interesting that he had somebody come in that does martial arts professionally. So there was a whole different level of training than what I was expecting. Because I know Rick's a gun guy, well, everybody on the panel is a gun guy. I know he's a gun guy, so I was expecting that. And to have somebody that comes in and does martial arts for a profession and teach that, I thought that was really cool. I also really enjoyed getting thrown on the ground by that tiny woman that was in the class. I thought that was funny because I'm like, there's no way she's gonna flip me. I'm like 3 times bigger than she is.
Oh, and I mean there was that one guy that was like double our size, and she took him down easy too. It was awesome.
Yeah, and it was great training because I mean it's totally a leverage thing because I'm like, yeah, there's no way this little short woman is gonna flip me over, and yeah, I'm face down on a mat. Cool. I also enjoyed the disarming stuff because we did a bunch of they had a bunch of dummy guns, both pistols and long guns. So we did a bunch of disarming drills, and I thought that was interesting because how often do you get to try and take a gun away from somebody?
Yeah, fortunately, not too often. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's a good thing.
yeah.
What else did we do? We did some medical stuff. We talked about some different equipment. We played with tourniquets. We played with oleus bandages. We talked about some legal stuff. One of the things that I thought was really interesting that Rick brought up is like, what are you comfortable with doing to like save your own life or the life of those around you? And my answer was kill everybody. But I think a lot of people in the class hadn't considered that. Like they never put the effort into thinking about like how far are they willing to go for self-preservation or the preservation of their loved ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was you and I, and there was one other like gun guy in the class, and that was it. There was a bunch of martial arts guys, and then just like regular people, if you will. And
Yeah,
I mean,
we had a couple of teachers. That was pretty cool.
yeah, a buddy of mine I haven't seen actually since university came out, and I thought it was really great that he did come out. Um, but yeah, I think like as a gun guy, you kind of obviously had the well, if someone breaks into my home and I own guns, will I use them? Yes or no? And if you've kind of made the decision that you're going to use them, you've already kind of made the decision that potentially you could kill somebody, right? I mean, because they're a
Yeah.
lot more lethal than I'm going to just kick somebody. Whereas if you don't have those around your house, you probably haven't kind of thought about that. Um,
No, I agree with that because I've had that consideration and like how far am I willing to go to stop somebody from doing something like killing me? And for me, it's an easy answer. I will kill them right back. But you could see a lot of people in the class hadn't really thought about that, so hopefully they have now.
yeah, I mean, and if you're not okay with it, that's fine, but at least make the decision one way or the other, right? Like it forces you to do that. And which is good. You should be uncomfortable talking about some of this stuff and thinking about it.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about with the course? Anything that you think we overlooked?
I don't know. In hindsight, I guess maybe it would have been good to do a couple of quick, like maybe knife disarms or something, given that that's also a possibility. But I mean,
And the murder weapon of choice in Canada.
yeah. But again, like I said, like I mean, given that the course was only one day with like an hour-long lunch in it, there's only so much you could fit into it, and I think that between the two of them, they both managed to fit in a whole lot of knowledge in a short period of time. And without going to like a full weekend or something course, you may be sort of bombarding people with too much to take in. But definitely, it opened people's eyes and minds to the possibilities that are out there, unfortunately, and hopefully they will, continue to go and learn some of this stuff in the event that they ever need it, but hopefully never do.
Yeah, I'm very interested. I looked there are no Krav Maga gyms where I live, which I think is both a good and a bad thing. I don't probably need to spend money to go learn Krav Maga, but I kind of like to.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely one of the things I was looking at learning for the last little while, but this kind of gave me a taste, and I've decided that I both love and hate it.
Because of the immense physical pain in the next day.
Yeah.
And literally everything hurt.
By next day, you mean like 2 or 3 days?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, by the time we were having beer and chicken wings, like, everything was sore, and like the next 2 mornings I woke up, I'm like, please just let me die. I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we just need to go to the gym in general.
Well, good news. I have a new gym membership for my new local gym in the new town, so I will be going back to the gym in addition to all of the other fun things.
Well, now you're just making me look bad.
What's your long-term fitness goal, Andrew?
Tyler convinced Drunk Andrew to sign up for Tough Mudder. So Drunk Andrew has to somehow convince Sober Andrew that this is still a good plan.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, Drunk Andrew should be the one that actually goes and competes.
Drunk Andrew's an idiot.
No, you can do it drunk. You guys don't know my friend Jeff, but we like crushed 6-packs before we ran the one in South Carolina. It was a good time.
Nice. That sounds like something you would do.
Matt wasn't there for undisclosed reasons, but
I don't think I'll be doing that.
Yeah.
Not that I don't appreciate the offer.
It's fun.
Sober Andrew thinks it's a bad idea.
It really takes the sting out of the electric shocks, though, if you're a little bit drunk.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Whatever. I've been tased before. I'll be tased again.
Did you get tased this weekend?
No, I did not get tased this weekend. I did almost get ventilated, though, which was...
See, that's how you segue.
That was a very...
Yeah.
You don't need to point it out, though, because I have to edit that part, but it was a very good segue.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us about almost getting your speed holes.
Yeah, so I almost got speed holes on the weekend. That was super fun. So as I mentioned in last week's podcast in episode 40, I was running match 6 for Ontario Rifle Association CQB at Canadian Forces Base, Borden. So I get up at an ungodly time of day and I drive to CFB Borden. And this Saturday when I was driving up, the local OPP detachment was out running a ride program. Which, I mean, I don't care. I hadn't been drinking. And it's obviously a ride program because they have a giant sign on the side of the road that's like, ride, right? Obvious what they're doing. So they had 3 units out and 5 or possibly 6 officers, and they're stopping vehicles. But it's like 6 o'clock in the morning on County Road 89, so there's nobody. There's one guy in front of me and there's nobody behind me for kilometers. So I came to a stop and rolled down the window and said good morning and everything. And there's a very young officer conducting these checks. And he must have just been out of school. Like he's very early 20s, right? Very young guy, which is important to the story, I think. And he was asking me, had I been drinking? Oh, no, it's 6 o'clock in the morning and I have been sleeping, so no, right? And he asked me where I was going. I was wearing the outfit that I'm wearing now, which is my very exciting multicam TDUs from 5.11. I said, I'm going to CFB Borden. He goes, why are you dressed like that? Well, I'm running a shooting match at CFB Borden. And he asked me if I had any weapons in the vehicle. And I said, well, actually, sir, I'm a licensed firearms owner, and in my locked bed of my truck, you'll find locked cases with locked firearms. And I got to about the point in the sentence where it was licensed firearms owner, and all of a sudden a Glock comes out of a holster and gets put into my face. So that was fun.
And then what happened?
And then what happened?
And then?
We had a Canadian standoff. So I stayed seated
Best
with my
description ever.
I stayed seated with my hands on the wheel, and he stayed standing next to the vehicle with the gun pointed at my face, finger on the trigger. And he says, "Sir, I'm going to need you to get out of the vehicle." No problem. That's fine. I will gladly comply. I am actively trying to comply with your commands, but you're going to have to be more specific as to how you would like me to do that because I would like to not be shot today. And he was kind of confused because there was a lot of I have the suspicion there was a lot of large words.
What are you trying to say, Andrew?
Yeah, what am I trying? Well, I think that I maybe overwhelmed him a little bit because I think he was very young and very confused, and it was very early in the morning.
But he's the one with the gun.
Well, and exactly, I'm like, I was very clear. I said, hands on the wheel. I'm not moving, and I'm like, I will try to comply 100% with what you're telling me. But you have to be more specific how you want to do this, because I don't need to get shot, right?
Yeah, right hand first, left hand first. What do you want, buddy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we went through the whole rigmarole, and he's like, okay, so with your left hand, unclip your seatbelt, and stick both hands out the window, and open the door, and step out. So I get out of the car, I get out of my truck, and they've got a couple of guys over to the side of my truck now. Oh, hey, look, it's Craig. Craig's here.
Excellent timing to give some perspective on the events in question.
Yeah, I'd heard about it before at one of the matches, and he didn't really have a lot of time to fill me in on what it was. So,
hey, Craig.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Oh, you know.
How's your bum?
Oh, it's okay. How was Jamaica?
Oh man, it was awesome. We just got in a couple hours ago, so I'm drying out.
Oh, and So Craig just came back from holiday and he made time to be on the show. You guys all bailed on me last week, and I got drunk by myself. Craig has his priorities in order.
That's the way it is.
Where was Craig last week? Huh?
In Jamaica. We literally
in Jamaica.
No, but do they not have the internet in Jamaica?
No.
I feel like Craig should get that. He was probably in the same time zone. Jamaica's in the Eastern time zone, isn't it?
No, it's an hour behind.
I think they're 1 hour
that's
different.
Close enough. That's close enough.
I've
All right,
made the show from the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin.
That's true. That casino was very frightening. I saw pictures.
Yeah.
So where were we? Okay, so I got ordered out of the vehicle. I got told to kneel on the ground, hands up, kneel on the ground, all that good stuff. So I've got like somewhere between 3 and all of the officers on scene standing around me. One of them is still pointing his gun in my face. So I kneel down. He goes, I want you to lay down on your stomach. Okay, so I go down on my stomach. I put my hands out. So one guy, in a move that I'm sure they must teach everyone this at, like, police officer school, does the same thing that happened to Tyler, and he jams his knee into my back.
Yeah.
But were you wearing body armor?
I was not wearing body armor. He totally knocked the wind out of me. Like,
So
I
it was
couldn't
probably
breathe.
more effective. I bet you my guy hurt his knee.
It was very effective. So, dude jams his knee into my back. Another dude sits on my legs, and Buddy is still, like, Officer Cupcake is still pointing his Glock in my face, finger on the trigger. So they want to know if I
doesn't have like sympathetic movements or anything like that.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, well, and that's why I'm like, I will do everything you tell me to do so that I'm complying. And I want you to know that I'm trying my best to comply. But like, you need to be very specific about what you want me to do, right? So one of them starts yelling if I have any weapons on me. I said, well, I got a knife in my pocket. Which pocket? You have a lot of fucking pockets. Okay, well, it's my right pocket. It's the only one with a knife in it. It's really... So he takes my zero tolerance out of my pocket. And he like throws it across the across the highway.
30
so again,
yards, at least.
I feel like this is again one of those things that they learn at police officer school because it was just like Tyler's cop. He just like takes it out and he just hucks it, right?
Just
gone. Like it's across the highway and in the ditch.
That's the official thing that we do when we have evidence that we don't want to have to deal with is you throw it.
Can't find it after.
Just give me a just. Yeah, if if you throw it north of Steeles, it's no longer Toronto's problem. So something like that. But sorry for coming in for so late. But where did this happen, and then why did this stop occur?
Okay, so briefly from the top, I was traveling on Highway 89 towards CFB Borden at about 6 o'clock in the morning, going to an ORA CQB match, and I was stopped at a ride checkpoint.
Yeah.
So they're doing their ride thing. There was one vehicle leaving the ride program, traveling eastbound, the same direction that I was traveling on 89, going into Shelburne. And the OPP had 3 cruisers out and 4 or 5 officers, 6 officers, somewhere in that number. I didn't actually get a chance to count everybody because I spent most of my time laying face down on the ground.
Yeah.
So I rolled the window down, said good morning, all that stuff, and the young fella that was there, that was in the funny polyester outfit with the Glock, asked me where I was going, CFP Borden. Had I been drinking? I got the order wrong. If I'd been drinking, where I was going, why I was dressed the way I was dressed, and if I had any weapons in the vehicle.
Well, no, you don't have any weapons in the vehicle.
Well, and I didn't want to like cause a problem, so in response to that, I said, well, actually, sir, I'm a licensed firearms owner, and in the locked bed of my truck, there's a locked case with locked firearms, and I got as far as licensed firearms owner, and the Glock comes out of the holster and gets pointed in my face.
Now, was it like a nice, slow, steady draw, or was he like fucking?
Oh no, he like
draw McGee, just like.
And
it was probably canted slight of it too, like.
Yeah. Did he give it a spin before he got it up?
No, I don't think he did. So he heard.
See, the funny thing about that is that you drive up similarly the same way that I do, and we're driving through farming communities, right? And the OPP that are doing that area there, no doubt they're going to come across residents or persons that are passing through their jurisdictions that have firearms because it is a farming community, right? So. But okay, so I get the gist of that there, and then you can continue from where I kind of butted in on.
Yeah, I was actually wondering the same thing. So you pulled up in a multicam shirt.
Yeah, so I'm wearing the same.
If that was Mossy Oak, you would have had no problem.
They'd probably been like, "Why aren't you wearing a Mossy Oak shirt?"
So, guns pointed, pulled out a vehicle, put on ground, knee in back. Guy sits on feet. Guy points gun at head. Knife gets tossed across the highway. Well, I say highway. It's a 2-lane road, right? It's
Any damage to the knife?
no, still good. Found it.
Good. Nice knife.
No, I like it. It's a zero tolerance 350. They're very nice knives.
And clearly they had zero tolerance for it.
Yeah, no, well, and I mean, I can understand wanting to separate me from things that can hurt them.
Oh,
yeah, that
agreed.
makes sense. Yeah.
But like
Right?
6
Like,
feet would probably do,
Well, I mean, he doesn't.
or putting it in his pocket, or
Maybe I do a lot
Okay,
of
so-
Krav Maga, and I could have kicked his butt.
Right off the bat. So right off the bat, were you told? I mean, there's rules to things. I'm not, giving away any secrets that the police have or anything like that. There's stuff that's legislated when it comes to doing spot checks and whether or not you're doing specific ride spot checks. And were you told that this is like a specific ride spot check?
Oh, they had one of those signs up that said that they were doing a ride program.
Yeah.
So
legislatively, what's supposed to happen is that you're allowed to be stopped or detained temporarily in order to have the officers ask you a couple questions regarding drinking and driving. And then if there's no probable grounds to have you being tested, you're to be sent on your way. So the fact that you were asked about firearms or weapons or anything like that is actually outside of the bounds of what the legislative ride program is. If it was just like a spot check where, where you would be going through a bigger municipality, where the spot check would be not just for sobriety, but it would also be for the proper licensing, insurance, and mechanical fitness of a motor vehicle, that's where more conversations can come out. And it is, I don't want to say legislated, but it is part of the rules that if it is a ride spot check, there's only certain questions you can ask regarding the drinking and the operation of a motor vehicle or say like an ATV, a snowmobile, or a watercraft. And after those questions have been asked, you're supposed to be sent on your way. So.
Yeah, no, and I get that part, Craig. But I mean, I'm also not going to argue with the guy with the gun, right? Like.
yeah.
Unfortunately, if I was in your situation, you don't want to argue. You want to be as cooperative as you can because you don't want to have. You don't want to go from like up here and then it goes even higher, and something tragic happens, which
and that was exactly it. Like,
hopefully,
I have my
not
hands
end up
clearly
losing
visible
you
on the wheel.
as a friend, and whatever, right? So.
Well, not just that. That was like the same thing in my situation a few months ago. There were answers I could have given, and things I could have said or indicated or whatever to assert kind of, I guess, my rights in that given situation. But I didn't want to be in this situation, just like Andrew, where you end up being right, but only after you spend the whole day at the station.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that, and I mean, like we talked about in that one episode, like, I mean, you haven't done anything wrong, like, so just go with it, and like, don't be a dick and run and make the problem worse, or like run your mouth or whatever, like just go with it, and then if they do something they're not supposed to, use it against them after the fact when it's been proven that you're in the right. And
that is that in essence, that is the way it is. Consider yourself the silent professional when it comes to something like that. And in the end, if it is found to be that you are in the right, which it sounds like it is in both these scenarios, there are avenues and there are routes that we can discuss in person if you guys want, regards to follow up properly. Not necessarily complaints, but this is something that's complainable. And it's also something that could be winnable, and that could be something that's in your favor. And, it could be something that comes down as far as, there's an issue with training. I don't have to say it, a lot of people complain about the quality of people that are now coming on to police departments. Nobody wants to do it anymore, right? So you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Maybe that person, has an issue with making proper judgment calls. Maybe that person is a problem officer that has had issues before. So
well, and I think in this,
we all have them. We all know who they are. We all work with them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that. I think in this particular case, it was definitely the lack of training and experience, because I don't know if you were on, Craig. When I started the story, I said that this guy was very young.
Yeah.
Like, very early 20s. Like, it kind of surprised me if he shaved in the morning, kind of like that young.
Yeah.
So,
see, long gone are the days, back in the, the 60s and 70s and maybe early 80s, where you could hire a person right out of high school and they have that maturity and the mentality and the problem-solving abilities to go out and do this kind of a job. Look at the kids nowadays when they graduate. I mean, they don't know what the hell they want to do. We have what's the term now? Everybody's called millennials. That they have that sense of entitlement to everything, and I deal with them on a regular basis. On the job. I'm in a different capacity now, doing a logistical job, which I'm quite happy at now. But I just got fed up dealing with that kind of stuff. So now you can't have a 22-year-old come out of a college course and put right on the street, because there isn't a whole heck of a lot of life experience. So, for a lot of people, when they get on the police department, sometimes that's their very first actual job. They may have had a couple part-time jobs before, but they've never had an actual full-time job, or have never been in a job where they've had to have some sort of authority, or have some sort of trust put into them. And this is what happens.
I could see that. I don't, like I said,
I'm glad neither one of you got hurt, thankfully. So.
Well, and that was, like we talked about, we did a whole episode on this, and I'll put the link in the show notes to what the episode number was, but like, all the stuff that we talked about with the how to interact safely with law enforcement stuff was exactly what I did. Like, hands on the wheel, repeat the words of command that I was given. So he's like, unbuckle the seatbelt with your left hand. I'm like, okay, I'm going to reach down with my left hand and unbuckle my seatbelt. And he's like, okay, do it. Push the button, and so no ventilation, no issues. They ended up tossing my truck, which was super cool. I really enjoyed having my gear distributed in a 30-yard section on the side of the highway. That was super fun. I also really appreciated the officer that took it upon himself to dump my rucksack, but it was not nearly as good as the officer that insisted that he didn't know what a camelback was or why it would be full of water, and decided it was necessary to dump my camelback out.
Yeah.
Clearly,
there's
liquid explosive.
I guess that's what
there's
tied
stuff
all
that
the
I can
drugs.
talk to you about and direct you.
No, and I get that. I get
Guns.
that. Yeah, no, I get that. I understand that there could be, but like the guy was like, from my perspective, he was playing stupid, because he's like, "What's this? Why is there a hose? What's this for?" And I'm like, "It's a camelback. It's for drinking." There's no way you can't know what this is. It's a common piece of like camping equipment. Like,
Yeah, he probably thought it was some kind of like piece of siphoning equipment, so you could make a fertilizer bomb or something.
yeah, and then they're like, "What's in it?" Water. Water is in it. And they
Straight
didn't.
vodka, because I'm
Yeah.
hard.
I'm just happy that finally something exciting happened at a CQB match.
Thing.
That's mean. Wow.
So how did you do in the match after your ordeal, your morning ordeal?
Worst match I have ever shot. I don't know what the score was off the top of my head. I think it was 235. It was 200 and something. And it is by far the worst CQB score I have ever shot, and I want to thank everybody at CQB, particularly my pal Pat, who I think could be watching on YouTube right now based on the comments, for loaning me some equipment, because the OPP jacked all my shit up. Like, when they decided to take my rifle out of the case and inspect it to ensure that it was unloaded, and they couldn't figure out how magazine locks work, because you have to mechanically lock the action of the rifle open before you can physically remove the magazine lock from the rifle.
So whatever department or whatnot that hasn't been issued a patrol carbine yet?
Well, no, it's the way the lock
mag
is. Yeah. And the mag lock, I mean, there's a knack to it. Like, you can't just unlock it and pull it out. You have to lock the action of the rifle to the rear, and then unlock the lock and remove it the same way as a magazine by pushing the mag release, right? So there's a knack to it. But the guy couldn't get it, and I'm laying face down on the ground trying to like remain as calm as possible and explain it to him, and he's just like, he's jacking with my rifle, and I can hear him clicking the dial on the scope and messing with all my stuff. And like he's like trying to put it on and play with the sling and stuff, and I'm like,
okay, I get it. I see what happened now. You're making the whole thing up to justify your poor shooting performance.
yes, that's exactly it. That is exactly.
I have a funny feeling that this actually never happened.
All right, so Andrew, one thing you haven't gone through yet is how did you get sent on your way? You know, what did they say? What was the outcome? How were you?
The senior most, or I shouldn't say that, the oldest officer, who I assume was the most senior amongst the 5 of them, eventually decided that he would listen to me when I was describing where my registrations and ATTs were, because I have a physical paper ATT for the military range, because it's not part of my regular license. They finally checked the serial number on the firearms that I had with me, and they had a bunch of radio calls back and forth because they didn't like that my address on my license didn't match the electronic registration in CPIC, because I've recently moved and my new license hasn't arrived in the mail yet.
Yeah.
So they validated that over the radio.
That actually wouldn't be... Yeah.
Well, I don't know. They validated it over the radio. I don't know why they didn't believe what was in CPIC, but I guess because it didn't match up, they didn't like it for whatever reason.
It wouldn't necessarily be in CPIC. It would be part of what's called Paris, which is the provincial sort of CPIC in a way that the MTO holds that would have all of that information. So, unfortunately, the OPP does at times. Some of their equipment is, even though some of their stuff is really nice and shiny looking and it looks cool and stuff, they do still have a lot of antiquated equipment. And I don't know, man. That's I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry that it happened to you.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I
hear stories like that. It kind of it angers me and it pisses me off a
bit. You have no idea how frustrated I was when I left. So they eventually finished.
So next match, just come to my house.
Yeah, we'll ride together.
Yeah. We'll ride together, and we can do 120 the whole way.
100, 120. Yeah.
Maybe 3 traffic stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they ended up. They finished all their radio calls. They went over my paperwork. They validated my serial numbers, and the oldest officer, who I assume was the most senior officer, because they all looked the same. Like nobody had like special identifying insignia that somebody was like obviously a sergeant or anything. So they eventually decided that I was no longer a threat and I was free to carry on about my business and I was to leave immediately. And I looked at him and I looked at my gear on the side of the road and I looked back at him and I'm like, seriously? And he's like, yeah, you need to go right now. And my rucksack's been dumped. All of my CQB match stuff has been dumped on the side of the road. Like I have milk crates full of stuff that we have to take to matches. All the match supplies, score sheets and staplers and targets and all the like a truck full of supplies, right?
Yeah.
Like he dumped my entire pickup truck on the side of the road.
Yep.
And I'm like, immediately is not going to happen. I will leave as soon as possible, trust me, but immediately is a little out of the question. So I locked all my crap back up and went and found my knife. And meanwhile, one of the OPP officers is like wandering around behind me, like watching me do my stuff, but not helping me or talking to me or generally being a human being. He's just like following me around to make sure that that I don't do something else illegal. So I throw everything in the back of my truck and I carried on about my day.
Very interesting contrasts and parallels with my situation. Number one, I think yours is worse because, at least in my situation, somebody actually called 911 and probably said, "Oh, there's a guy with a gun in the hotel lobby." But yours was like you're volunteering that information. There's a non-threatening manner about you. The officer obviously basically has the drop on you. The officer is kind of understands the situation for what it is, whereas in my case, they didn't know what they were showing up to when they responded to the call. And yet, I found that the officers in my scenario were much more calm. They were stern, to be sure, but everything was like proper. and the amount of force applied was like directly proportionate to the amount of cooperation I gave them. So, like for example, the guy grabbed the back of my plate carrier and he's like, "All right, we're going down on the pavement now," and he like lowered me down. He didn't just like kick me down or anything. Like I thought, like everything about my encounter was reasonably professional. Except for throwing the knife, 40 yards away. But the officer actually went and found the knife for me. I didn't have to go searching for it, so that was pretty cool.
That's much better. I wouldn't say that they were unprofessional with me. I mean, obviously having guns pulled from holsters and pointed in my face is disconcerting.
Yeah.
But the other officers, except for Officer Cupcake, that felt it was necessary to draw on me.
Well, that's what I mean. Like you obviously had somebody who's really green. And then the bitterness that you kind of felt at the tail end of the encounter was probably similar to what I described, where the guy was upset that he didn't nail me on an unsafe storage charge.
Well, and I think that was a big part of their thing. Because, again, none of these guys knew how the laws were supposed to work. I mean, like, one of the things they asked me was, like, we need you to give us the combination for your combo lock so we can open your case. I'm like, okay, sure, no problem. And two of them tried, and they couldn't get it to open. And it's like it's a Dudley High School lock, like off of a locker, right? It's not. So they ended up that I had been handcuffed, and I ended up unlocking the case for them.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't something that like could easily have been like, okay, so great, you've got weapons. Can you please, like, not with a gun drawn, but hey, can you please step out of the vehicle while we just check to make sure everything is legit? Like, that could easily have been handled in a not pointing guns at you manner, but still, like, go stand over there away from them.
And
we'll
it's
give
not
you
like
a quick pat down to make sure you don't have a knife or a gun on you, but stand over there while we just check your shit.
Well, and again, I would have been perfectly okay with that, and there were enough of them there that they could have easily accommodated that. So, but I mean, like, nothing was like terribly unprofessional. There was a lot of yelling and cursing.
There's a whole follow-up that you can do to this, and
I would. I mean.
So, Craig, I mean, like, I have a question for you. And
this was like last week, the last match? Yeah, the one
like 3 days ago. Craig, did we lose you?
This is cutting in and out, but so like with this, there's going to be stuff that has to be done, and this is all available through Freedom of Information. And because it does concern you, is like I said before, this has been identified as a ride spot check. And then, what was the reason for the level of force that was being used? Okay, with the initial contact with a firearm being drawn. Well, then that means that a use of force report, a provincial use of force report, then has to be completed, and it has to be submitted. And those are available through Freedom of Information. And then from there as well, there's a bunch of other paperwork that also has to be submitted as well, and this all has to be written up. And this isn't stuff that that is super secret. Everybody knows this stuff. I'm not, putting down the good brothers and sisters in blue that I work with that know their jobs and they know their legislation and their powers. But this all goes into notebooks and stuff like that, right? And there might be a file on this as well. And then because you were actually handcuffed, you weren't just detained, you had your civil liberties taken away from you. So you were placed, I don't know if you heard the term investigative detention or anything like that, but rights to counsel should have been provided to you. And you should have been allowed to contact a lawyer or somebody to represent you. Somebody from the CSSA, or if you're a member of, the NFA or anything like that, or any of those phone numbers that we have that we pay all those money to, or a simple call to your mom or your dad, or to your wife. That's something that has to be provided to you as well. Find out whether or not any of the cars that were there, whether or not they're equipped with in-car camera systems, and ask that be provided to you as well. Through Freedom of Information. And then one of the questions I would ask, if it was me in my shoes, was, well, what reason do you have to ask if I have weapons and stuff like that? Because it's actually really none of your business. And
Well,
a weapon
that's
to
kinda how
me
I took
is
at it.
different than what a weapon to another person would be, because to me, when we go up and we compete, those are tools. You know, we are honing skills that are perishable, right? And we're going up there to train. I do it because it's all part of, like, you know, it's but the only hobby that I've got. And then again, the level of force that was used, you know, you being detained, your civil liberties being taken from you, and then everything else that has to be done afterwards. And I don't know, man. I'll talk to you. I got to be candid, you know,
Yeah, no, I
online,
get
but
that.
I can talk to you offline about some measures you can take. So, and
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm happy with how it all
It's
worked out.
I mean, it sucks when I yeah, but still, we flew to Jamaica, we landed there, we dealt with immigration, we dealt with customs, and we dealt with their police there. And when, I swear to God, from the time we landed, going through all of that, and getting into the little shuttle bus for the hour-and-a-half drive to the resort, I think we were in the actual airport, Sangster's Airport, maybe 12 minutes, because it wasn't 15 minutes. It's so streamlined. And the people there,
Yeah.
it's different. And then when we flew in today to Pearson,
Oh, wow.
we had the customs
Okay.
people there, the immigration
Pearson is my
people as
home
well,
airport,
it
and I
was
fly in there a
organized,
lot. Oh,
disorganized chaos.
it's a
and
mess.
it's just,
Yeah.
you know,
Pearson
just
is a total
when I hear of
mess.
processes that don't get done properly, it just pisses me off. So
Yeah,
Hey,
I fly into
Craig.
Pearson all the time. It's a total. It's just
Yeah.
a gong show every time.
So, Craig, I have a question based on Andrew's comment about needing to unlock the case for the officers. What is the officer's reason for needing to access the firearms in the case? I mean, once they see the locked case, is that not proof that it's sort of stored correctly and that it's secured?
it is. He has, again, he has to prove or have to say why he did what he did. I've come across many people that are firearms owners, and there's been one or two occasions when I've kind of asked, like, okay, is it stored properly, or, you know, what are you transporting? And they've offered information, but I've never fished for anything.
I'll actually give you a story that will
I've had hunters
corroborate
come
what you're
out and
saying.
show me the first time I ever the first time I ever saw I think it's a Browning Satori was you know, an older paisan that was coming back from hunting, and he gladly showed it to me. It's just a non-restricted firearm, but he still has it locked up properly. And you know, it ended up being a guy that I would see regularly in my patrol area. But you know, he had. I mean, I hate to say this stuff, right? Because I don't want to go against people that are doing the good work. But he had no right. I'm a licensed firearm owner. You know, you have no right to say, okay, I want to inspect, you know, your firearm to make sure that it's being transported properly. Because even if it wasn't being transported properly, how did he get the grounds to decide to search your vehicle and then search the container that's that's transporting your firearm? And I mean, there's three sides to every story. I've got your side. I know you're a solid cat, and there's no reason why I would doubt anything you ever have to say. You know, there's not much there for them. That's unreasonable search.
Well,
Except
and
let's not forget my
financial
theory
repercussions to that.
on his match scores and why he would be telling the story. But
entirely
Which
possible
reminds
that
me, I forgot to tell you guys. Prior to the last shotgun match, I totally got detained, and they messed with the springs in the lifter of my 870, which might explain its poor performance.
let me just tell you a quick story just to corroborate what Craig is saying. I got stopped at a ride check around Elora, right down the road from a casino or like a horse track or whatever. And
Racetrack and slots.
yeah. So I get stopped, and I was on my way back from hanging out with some friends on a long weekend up north, and I had a Mossberg 500 kind of leaning. The buttstock was in the passenger footwell, and then the rest of the shotgun was leaning up and like totally visible in the like passenger seat area. And so I pull up, roll down the window, and the guy's like, where are you going? Where are you coming from? Oh, is that a shotgun? I said, yeah. And he said, well, what's it doing there? I said, the shotgun rides shotgun. That's where it goes. And he just says, is it loaded? I said, no. And he just said, all right, just mind if I see your PAL? I showed him my PAL, and he says, have a nice day. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
Unfortunately,
my wife has
when you get into areas where people, like if you came into Toronto and stuff like that, like you don't have a lot of who's the mayor that got rid of all the firearm stuff, and
Was that Lastman?
we couldn't do the sportsman show anymore at the convention center.
Was that Lastman or Miller?
No, the one after him. Miller, yeah. So there used to be a lot of calls at Union Station. A lot of people don't know that Union Station used to have a firing range there that was being used by the railway police services, and then private citizens could also be part of that club. And there was always calls of people calling in of people that were carrying firearms. And just because of the look of the case. And you get stopped, and it became sort of routine in a way where it wasn't something that was like a high enforcement action. But now that is gone, and the fact that people think that nobody in Toronto even owns guns anymore, that could have been a different scenario. I couldn't say which way it would go, which way it wouldn't go. There are a lot of gun owners in Toronto. A lot of people don't know that certain universities in Toronto, when their professors and their faculty go on expeditions, they carry firearms, and those firearms are stored on the university property. And from last talking to somebody with the contact at U of T downtown, they have firearms there. They also have a firearms club, which I don't know if it still operates or not, but it was still going about 2 years ago. And like I said, stuff like this just pisses me off. So.
Oh, trust me, pissed off doesn't even begin to describe how I was on Saturday. But I don't know. It ended well. I got all my stuff back eventually. Found my knife. Found all my other kit that got strewn everywhere. I shot abysmally, but hey, it only took me like all of our practice to figure out why my gun wasn't hitting paper. But it's okay. The entire thing is like
the dials. That's okay. I got DQ'd the last one, so
that's fine. I'm vying for most improved shooter now because I have such a poor score to post.
Well, just kind of reading through the YouTube comments, and one viewer has something that's very important to say, that this makes all cops look bad, and that's very true. That's like it's a negative experience, and especially like if you push the matter, make a complaint about it, take it to Faith Goldie, as some have suggested, take it to the Rebel, make it a public matter, then yeah, it reflects really poorly on the police.
Well, okay, so we've talked about this before, and I don't mean I don't want to get Craig's back up on this, but I mean there are bad cops out there, just like there are bad anythings in any profession. And my theory,
absolutely,
my theory is 10% of everybody is automatically just not good people, and 10% of that are legitimately evil. So,
yeah, it's like they're born with boarding passes for the helicopters.
Oh, exactly, and that's what I mean. Like, 10% of people are just dumbasses or idiots or assholes, or like they're just not good people, right? And then 10% of that are like legitimately
things like this that suck.
Did he just freeze?
Like,
no, he's on like a 5-second delay.
Somebody reboot the police officer. He's frozen.
Yeah. So I think, and the hard thing is that the good cop, you'd never hear stories about him. The guy that let you off on the speeding,
you never do.
The guy that cut it back. You don't hear those stories. You only hear about the dick that wouldn't drop at 1 kilometer. You know what I mean? You only hear about the bad stories. So
maybe in the interest of keeping things fair and balanced, then I'll tell you another quick story where I was pulled over for speeding. I was doing 116 and an 80. And I was actually driving much faster than that, but fortunately the radar only hit me as I had slowed down just a little bit. And so I get pulled over, and I had a Swiss Arms Black Special on the dash of my truck. And the officer, this was just north of Bancroft, So I'm outside of the GTA.
This is oh
And
my god.
it's a different culture, right? So I get pulled over. Officer rolled down the window. He comes up. He's like, "Whoa, what's that doing there?" And I said, "Oh, that's where I keep it." At the time, it was myself, my girlfriend. It's a 2-seat truck, and then in behind the seats was my German Shepherd, and then the bed of the truck was like open and exposed. So I said, "Well, I don't have a case for it. I'm not going to keep it in the back with the dog. That's where it goes." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Just do me a favor. Just don't touch it." That's all he said. And I even volunteered my PAL, and he just said, "No, I'm pretty sure if you're driving around like that, you've got nothing to hide." And then he knocked my speeding ticket down to a 95 and an 80, and kind of wished me a nice weekend. So there's your good story.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I can give a personal good story in the last couple of days. Last week, the local PD stopped the wife and I leaving the subdivision, like going out to the main road through town here where we live, and the local PD is doing a seatbelt check. And I thought the road was closed because like they had like two cruisers blocking part of the roadway, and like a guy out with a hit me vest. So I go around the corner and see them there, and I like immediately hit the brakes because I can't tell what they're doing. And he waves me up, and I go up to him. And he's like, "Seatbelt check. Have a nice day." Okay, cool.
As an aside, if anybody has a spare gun case that they want to give to Tyler, that sounds like you could use one.
No, he's got this backpack that works really well, except for like the top 10th of the gun, maybe sticks out.
No, it's a little bit more than that, but also like on that note, unlike the officers in Andrew's situation, my officers treated my equipment with care. So I mean that should be noted.
Well, that's also because your rifle is more badass than Andrew's.
It's true. It's like they were awestruck and like just had to take a moment.
On that note, unlike the officers in Andrew's situation, my officers
treated that
with care.
That's got to be Craig.
Craig.
So I mean, that should be noted. Well, that's also because your rifle is more badass.
Of course
your
it is.
headset
I'm technically.
Okay, I think you fixed it, but we can't hear you. That's
Okay, can you hear me now?
yes.
Yeah, you're good.
Swear to God, I'm gonna throw this thing through the fucking wall.
Just when you do, make sure that it's still filming so that it all goes live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or do it on a dash cam in case you ever get like a use of force charge.
No, I was just logging on to the live chat part with the with my phone to see if I can see any of the comments or anything like that. If I can answer anything anybody wants.
Right on.
Oh, okay. Here we are. Shaven quite pleased. All right.
Yeah, bad apple syndrome for sure. I have no problem with that. And I don't have any animosity, particularly for Officer Cupcake of the OPP Shelburne Detachment that decided it was necessary to point guns in my face. Cause
no, but I mean that doesn't mean that you shouldn't use this as a learning opportunity for him either.
And I think that I hope that he will. I hope that he gained a little bit of education out of this, or that one of his other officers went over and either he's a problem child to begin with, or somebody that's been there doing the job a little bit longer went over and pointed out to him that he was being an idiot.
Yeah, because I mean, like once he pulls on you, like the other guys have to kind of get in line and support him.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they all look like shitheads.
Well, no, and I get that. Like somebody
nobody wants to be the guy
that just pulled a gun on a guy in a truck. So we should all probably treat that like a threat, and I'm totally fine with that. My issue lies with Officer Cupcake's decision to
he initiated
to use needless amounts of force to do nothing. Like they didn't catch a criminal. They didn't stop any crimes being committed. They needlessly detained me for a little while, for 45 minutes, because they could. Like.
I suspect that this officer got a lesson from the senior officers right after you left.
Hopefully.
Well, and that's what I hope for.
Yeah. But you should still totally ask for the dash cam footage just because it would be hilarious.
Fuck. All right, I'll put in a Freedom of Information Act. Let's go into the rest of the show.
Even if you do nothing about it, just
I see here there's a comment that the young cop owes you a... Dorothy says that he owes you a face-to-face apology. And you know what? That could be something that could be done. I would first start off by contacting the actual unit commander of the detachment and illustrate what you saw and understand what happened, and he can look into it to see what his officers then have to say. And then from there, that's where you can make. We'll talk about it.
We can
and there's
talk
different
about that.
avenues that you can take. So
I would say at the very least he owes you a box of ammo to re-zero your rifle.
That's cool. I got it sorted out. It took me
and like we said, it could be an issue of retraining.
Yeah.
All right,
it is sad because there's a lot of people that are traveling that very same route on those same mornings, going to CQB matches, that are going to Borden for different sort of ORA events.
Did you say CFB Borden or CFB Boredom?
Well, that's only when there's a CQB match going on.
Yeah, we get it. It's not multi-gun. Moving on.
I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
Well, it is, but you guys have to like pause in between your transitions, though, don't you?
We can talk about why we do that later, because that's not something I'm recording for posterity. Let's move into upcoming events. Somebody want to read some upcoming events, because this entire thing is traumatic, and I'm feeling very triggered right now.
Do you need a safe space?
I don't have a safe space, but if you could provide me one, that would be lovely.
No, that's all on you. You have to provide your own safe space.
Well, shit.
I don't have the government funding for it.
I understand that Andrew is coming up to my neck of the woods, to Meaford, for a long-range shooting. Is it a course of is it an actual match or is it a class?
It is an actual match.
Okay. So
It's
what do you?
Meaford,
yeah.
Sorry, it's the Meaford Long Range Steel Challenge. It's the first PRS, that's the Precision Rifle Series match. It's being held in Canada. It's at 4 Canadian Division Training Center, which is Canadian Forces Training Center, Meaford, I think is the name.
Something like that, yeah.
And that'll be September 2, 3, and 4. And I'll be staying in rations and quarters. If any of our listeners are amongst the other competitors, I will be the guy that is definitely not. Oh yeah, Spooning. I will be the guy that is definitely not drinking in shacks. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, and 2 guys to a urinal. Andrew's favorite.
Hey, as long as you don't cross the streams.
No, that's dangerous. You don't want to do that.
Right? So Tyler's got it.
Is that like Ghostbusters?
That is exactly like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
The original Ghostbusters, no, not
not the shitty remake. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be a lot harder for them to do.
Yeah.
Don't want to see it. Not my cup of tea. Tyler's got questions in the show notes. He wants me to elaborate on what I'm doing, what I'm running. So I'll be using my Remington 700 XCR Tactical Long Range, which I think is the most letters that they can put into the name of a 700.
Is there an SPS in there anywhere?
There is no SPS, no.
What about VTR?
No. XCR.
So you're running 308. I had a question about the glass you're running and like what ranges you have shot it out to, like to this point, and what ranges you'll be shooting for the match.
For the match, I'm going to be using the same scope that's on there always. It's a Vortex Viper PST 6-24 by 50 first focal plane milradian scope.
Nice. That's a great scope. It's the same one I have on my 338.
Thoroughly enjoy it. It's a very nice scope.
Fixed power, 24.
6-24.
6-24. Question for you: does it have a rubber or a metal magnification ring?
Off the top of my head, I want to say that it is metal, but I could be mistaken. I know that the 1-4 that is on my SBR is rubber, and occasionally I encounter slippage.
I believe the one on the 6-24 is metal with like a rubber outer of some.
I think it's an aluminum ring with a rubber.
Yeah. It's super stiff. I had to put one of those like fucking switch things, like the throwback lever on it.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's why I asked, because I have a Vortex switch. They call it like a switch throw lever or whatever. Yeah. There's like 4 different models, and anyway, I bought the one for the PST series of scopes for metal rings, whereas mine has a rubber ring. So I have one kicking around.
I might grab that off you for a different scope.
If I grab it first, we'll work out something, Tyler. I'll be up in the woods soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to be using my hand loads. It's 155 CNRs. I'm not telling you how much powder. And the ranges that I've shot out to with this rifle, I actually built this rifle for precision rifle with the ORA and F class with the ORA. So I shoot F factory as opposed to F open. And F class is shot at 800 and 1,000 yards, and this rifle has been out to 1,000 yards on a fairly regular basis with a friend of mine who no longer shoots because he's busy being in the army and they don't shoot there.
Mm-hmm. Too expensive.
But they have other priorities apparently.
Aren't they going on peacemaking missions to Africa?
We'll get into that in a future episode.
Yes.
You sent me
Peacemaking.
pictures of Comic-Con recently.
All right. So do you have any other questions? I think I covered that off.
Just you've got like a number of days listed there, and that you said you were staying overnight in the barracks. So is it a multi-day event?
Yes. Friday is safety and zeroing. Saturday and Sunday are the competitions, and then the end of the day, Sunday, will be awards and presentations.
And Sunday night, we're going to the Leaky Canoe in Meaford for beers and wings.
And if anybody wants to join us, you can get in touch with us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com or through the Facebook page.
You have a day to zero? Shouldn't you just show up to the thing ready to go? Isn't that how most competitions work?
We don't have a day to zero. We have time on Friday to zero. And
just
the
show up
reason
with
for
your
that
note
is
cards and shoot. Like,
the reason for that is there are a number of competitors that are traveling very long distances via. Who has screaming babies in the background?
That's Craig.
Craig, I'm muting you. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Amateurs.
yeah, if you have your dope cards properly, you should be able to account for all of that barometric pressure change and nonsense like that.
It's not barometric pressure and all the other. It's the traveling via like Air Canada from BC and having a porter throw your gun case on the ground.
Yeah, that was Matt's claim for the charity shoot in June. He said that the TSA jacked up his 22 and bumped it out to zero.
And in order to combat that, the Meaford Long Range Skill Challenge is giving everybody an opportunity to zero their rifles.
Yeah.
We also have an upcoming action shotgun match. The Ontario Action Shooting League is putting on at Galt.
Yep. The second match held at Galt, 5th in the series. Last one before the final match, the shoot-off, which will be held at Crumlin. I think that's just outside of London.
Yes, that's correct.
And so be happy to get back to that club. I think we're shooting in the afternoon. Gavin, Jeff, and I. And Andrew, you're doing the rifle thing, so you're out. But it should be a good time. We'll have hopefully Gavin will be able to make it through an entire match without some sort of catastrophic gun malfunction.
Would you like to borrow my Benelli while I'm busy shooting my rifle?
No, I've got my old man's 870 Wingmaster that should make it. I'm deciding whether I want to put my stuff on it or just keep the original wood furniture but just the mag tube on it.
Yes, wood furniture and a mag tube. Please do that. Post it on the internet. Make the hunter's heads explode.
But I might even put my shorter 870 barrel on it.
Nice.
Just to really
Won't you just need a really big plug then?
Yeah, pretty much. If I ever want to take it out duck hunting. Yeah.
I actually have that for my Versamax.
The plug is 6 feet long.
Yeah, it has a plus 3 or 4 mag extension on it, and it's a semi. So the mag extension itself is crimped, so the follower can't move past a certain point. But obviously, it holds more than 2. So I have a 3/8 wooden dowel that's 14 inches long. That's my shotgun plug. I take it turkey hunting.
That's amazing. The MNR guys must love you.
I've never bumped into any kind of game warden, MNR guy, nothing. I've never had any encounter with law enforcement when I'm hunting.
Oh, you should take me hunting. We can totally change that. Between the two of us, they'll be drawn like magnets.
Well, yeah, I can show you. Some good spots up here. This is turkey country, man. They're everywhere.
We need to go out and do some hunting all together, I think. Which
Yeah.
will probably just quickly turn into drinking, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That's Yeah, we'll just put the guns away and we'll crack the beers. That's fine. I also want to announce on the show, and hopefully by the time I have this edited, it's 100% ready to go. I tentatively have a Ragnarok tactical carbine course booked at the Guelph Rod and Gun Club on October 19th. The course cost will be $200 taxes in.
And that comes with a hot lunch, right?
That comes with a hot lunch.
Nice.
Yes, I've received multiple listener feedbacks, complaints, if you will. I feel that it's very important. No, I feel that it's very important to feed people. Craig's trying to talk. Craig, you have to unmute yourself because your children scream.
Also, the clanging silverware in the background.
Oh no, now he's leaving. Okay, I have no idea what's happening.
He's trying to figure out how to unmute himself right now.
Perhaps he's talking to the screaming children.
A question, Andrew, about the tactical carbine course.
Yes, sir.
What are the differences between the tactical carbine course and the operator course?
One you'll have to wear multicam for, the other one you don't.
So Ragnarok Tactical is the name of my company, not the name of my course. It's a carbine course, and the only difference between the AR-15 course that you did and the carbine course is that it's open to other carbines.
I see.
It is essentially the same course that you have taken that we have spoken about at length on both this podcast and the International Liberty or Death podcast.
Yeah, much to Marty's chagrin.
Yes, I'm very sorry to hear for all of our audio listeners that you don't like that I feed people. If I pay $200+ for a day at the shooting instruction, I feel that it's not unreasonable to expect, reasonable foods.
That and the brisket was actually pretty good.
It was.
Right? That brisket.
And I'm totally going to come and do the carbine course, but I'm going to bring my Mosin just to mess with everybody.
Does it have a short barrel?
I have the M44 version.
Nice.
Oh, you don't have like the sniper one that's like 6 feet long?
No, just the carbine version. So it qualifies, but it still has the fold-out bayonet. So, which for barrel harmonics, you need to shoot with it out.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Go on.
Andrew, don't know kind of what you have in mind, but if you need an extra set of eyes on the line, I could probably be able to come and just help you police the line and whatnot.
Yeah, I'll pretty much gladly take help from anybody that I can deem reasonably competent. Officer Cupcake, not so much. Tyler, definitely.
Yeah, you'll just have to complete the 2-year probation period plus the RSO course, and then get multiple RSO signatures to be qualified to do that, to help out.
Marty's just a little bitter about his experience at the Guelph Rod and Gun Club. and that's fine. He doesn't have to be at Guelph. I happen to have the day off. I will teach it somewhere else if somebody else can rent me a range. But I know that the Guelph Club has tentatively allowed me to purchase rental of a range.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good start.
Hey, Craig's back. He figured out how to unmute.
Yeah, that's fuck.
I think he just dropped out and rejoined.
Close enough. All right. Let's do the Philpott report. So that's a new segment that I'm naming in honor of our very wonderful, air quotes, wonderful health minister. The first piece of news comes to us from Yahoo because I'm treating them like an actual reputable news source today.
I use Ask Jeeves.
Is Ask Jeeves? All right. So Minister Philpott has agreed to repay $520 for Air Canada Lounge access because I guess she didn't learn her lesson after the $1,700 taxi ride.
I think the bigger crime here is that the Air Canada Lounge thinks that they can charge $520 for access.
I'm not positive, but I think that might be the annual rate.
It is, because I do get that for work, because I travel a lot. But I will tell you that is the within Canada only rate. The international rate is like $700.
So like I mean, similarly for travel, I've spent a fair bit of time in the Air Canada Lounge, and as lounges go, it's pretty horrendous.
The AC lounge is not my favorite lounge. I'll take it if I'm flying AC, but I mean, there are far better choices out there.
Although at least the one in Toronto has all-you-can-drink Guinness if they don't cut you off.
I have yet to be caught
Depends
off
what time
enough.
of the day. They also don't
Yeah.
allow it super early in the morning.
Yeah, it starts at
Yeah.
11, I think.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
follow the whole liquor law thing, which is stupid
That's
because it's an airport.
ridiculous.
Well, it's bullshit because depending like where you're going, where you're coming from, it may not be 11 a.m. for you.
Exactly. That's the bullshit part about airports.
It's 11
That
a.m.
could
somewhere.
be that could be a whole other episode. Is airport bullshit that I could get into and talk about for days.
Yeah, traveling professionally is exciting sometimes, right?
Oh yeah, but hey, at least they're gonna give me $400 for my last little bump, which I will probably spend on guns.
I sincerely think that when people get into positions like this, it should be a position of being humble, where you're not making that amount of money, where you're going into a position in politics where you are trying to do good and you are trying to do something for your constituents or whoever you are representing. And being able to make that kind of money and have that kind of write-offs when the rest of us regular folks can't have that is completely wrong. When you take a position in that kind of authority, you shouldn't be making more than the regular Joe Blow does, that might have to do shift work or something like that. Yeah, it sucks that you may have to fly all over the country and you have to do different things, but you know what? That shit's in the brochure when you signed up.
Yep.
And having a driver and going to different little clubs so that you can drink while you're waiting for your airplane and stuff like that. That's bullshit.
No, I agree. And I mean, I travel frequently for my profession.
Yep.
And I'm okay with them being able to claim the travel expense portion the same way as the employee of any major company would be.
Yeah.
The part that I have the issue with is that she's trying to expense the lounge access because who gets free lounge access?
She doesn't need that.
Well, and that's what I said.
I get lounge access because of the amount of miles that I do annually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have either had to pay for my lounge access or I get it because of the amount that I travel. And if she's got to pay for it out of pocket, then she's got to pay for it out of pocket. It's not like she makes a six-figure salary and can't afford it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm lucky because it's my company, so I can do that. But if one of my employees wanted to do that, I'd tell them to go F themselves.
And on Craig's comment, it's something we've mentioned before, but being a politician, serving as a politician, it should be a service similar to that, of our military, or it's a service to your country. And the fact that it comes with, a six-figure salary makes no sense by comparison.
Well, why does a politician make more than somebody in our military?
Right. That's my point. Or why is a politician making more than the average salary of their constituents?
It should be a position of somewhat a position of humility, like when somebody enters into priesthood and decides to be a priest and run a church or something like that. They're not millionaires, right? They just have access to a lot of boys.
I mean,
I got a question for the panel here, and I got to get this in before we get too far from what Marty and Craig have said. What is the job of a legislator? It's to legislate. When you have full-time MPs as a full-time job, they're gonna write laws. They're gonna create problems to solve, or they're gonna make mountains out of molehills. And we run into the problems that we talk about a lot on this show.
They're going to justify their position.
Yeah, and maybe we could adopt a model similar to New Hampshire, where members of their state legislature make $100 a year. It's a citizen statesman job. They convene when there's a problem to solve, and other than that, there's no government.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Or there should be a mandatory tenure then, where they can't sit for years and years and years and years.
Sure.
I think it's a single term maximum. One term, that's it. No chance of re-election.
Yeah.
I'm okay with all of those plans. If we could find a plan to implement, the unfortunate part of that, in order for us to implement any of these plans, is we're going to have to give out free helicopter rides.
Yeah, actually, didn't we mention doing a whole episode dedicated to all of our terrible ideas for government?
Yeah,
that's a great idea for government, actually. By the way,
I'm pretty
the
sure
only
that's
form of welfare that I can get behind.
I'm pretty sure all of these episodes are our horrible ideas that we have for government.
Hey.
Yeah.
Only we think they're great ideas. Everyone else might think they're terrible.
But this topic headlining story reminds me of the guy who went to, I believe it was Poland, and he racked up 20 grand in data charges for his like iPad or his tablet or whatever it was. And when he was criticized on it, he just kind of shrugged his shoulders, saying, "Well, I needed the data." It's like, well, you couldn't, find a coffee shop with Wi-Fi. Like,
RedTube doesn't come for free, man.
Yeah. and what makes it worse is he was like HDing that shit. He wasn't going to like the 240p.
Yeah. I mean, if he legitimately needed that to do something like life-saving work for the government, not that would ever happen, but like I'm just supposing, like hypothetical, then okay. Like if that needs to be done, legitimately needs to be done, then so be it. But yeah, you don't need to spend that much time watching bukkake videos on the internet and charging the citizens for it.
Do I have to beat bukkake out?
No.
I feel like I do, but I'm not sure.
No one knows what that means, and they probably
Craig,
can't spell it to Google it.
You have children. Is it okay for them to hear the words bukkake?
Not unless we're in a tapenaki restaurant and it's
Someone mispronounced.
and it's mispronounced.
I'm pretty sure that means I have to beep it then.
But you should beep it in such a way that it's still like really clear what was said, but you can still say that you beeped it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Actually, I think it should be the opposite. 'Cause I think it'd be fun to listen to the edited version, because there'll be no reference to pick out what is actually being said.
Yeah.
Bukkake.
Amazing. Let's go into the real news now. We'll talk about the Toronto Air Show being too traumatic for newcomers who have escaped war. Does anybody have anything positive to say about this?
I have an air show
nothing.
idea that involves helicopter rides
So
for certain select people.
Yeah, I would buy tickets to that one.
I'd offer to fly the helicopter.
yeah, so one of the shows that I do for work is the IPM, the International Plowing Match, and they actually do have helicopter rides there. Just saying. Nobody finds those. Well, they
Helicopter rides.
totally
Isn't
turn
that
into that though.
Isn't that how you start off in reverse cowgirl and then you spin it?
That is a different type of helicopter ride than the one we're talking to, but
All right.
I like where your head's at, though.
yeah, no, I could get behind those helicopter
if there's a
rides
problem,
as well.
yeah, I read this before. If there's a problem with air shows, is it newcomers to Canada that are coming from war-torn countries?
I don't even think anyone's actually complaining about it. I think it's all these legislators that we're talking about
Here's
that
an
are
idea.
coming up with a
Don't
problem.
fucking show up. Don't go.
Yeah.
Well, and that's my opinion. But the person that wrote this article, who happens to go by the name Craig, I'm sure they're no relation.
I think not.
Their opinion, the way they start the article, is that the Canadian International Air Show is at best a nuisance. Like they're going into the beginning of the article already saying that they don't like this because it annoys them.
Yeah, so you already know that the author of the article has a boarding pass.
Yeah, and like I don't know who this
show up because he hates air shows.
Yeah.
Let's see who this dude. I'm going to Google this guy quick. His name is Craig Damian Smith,
But like,
and he is the waspiest-looking liberal I have ever seen. He's got the big giant horn-rimmed glasses, and I don't think he's ever been in sunlight.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't have any outlining muscles, and he probably doesn't have calluses on his hands either.
Yeah,
No.
and if you went to go shake his hand, it would probably feel like you're grabbing a piece of raw chicken.
well, he might have
Or a
calluses
limp.
on the palms of one hand.
Yeah.
This is exactly the guy you would expect to write this article.
Yeah.
What is? He's a total apologist for people that are new to the country. That fine, I can understand coming from a war-torn country and like seeing things that are traumatic, but it's an air show. They're not doing strafing runs anymore. They stopped doing that 20 years ago, and I'm still upset about it.
Wouldn't they be like, oh, I'm so grateful to be in this safe country, and look at the aircraft that are here to protect me? Like, why would that be traumatic?
Are we
I don't-
supposed to stop dynamiting the sides of highways and stuff like that when we fix them too? Because that could be traumatic to people because those are explosions.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this
Right.
this Craig Smith guy
Next-
probably found it dramatic. He probably has PTSD from it.
Shouldn't we dismantle all leftist media outlets because that's ultimately what undid their home countries?
Yeah. I guess
Guys,
this
he's
Craig,
a
what's his name, needs to go hang out with Kuntzman, and they can go shoot ARs together and get
Yeah.
PTSD and go for a helicopter ride.
Am I supposed to make that echo now?
Self-proclaimed,
Yes.
self-proclaimed specialist in irregular migration, refugee regime, borders, climate, Middle Eastern, North African, and European politics.
Oh yeah, the guy's a total nut bar.
Oh yeah.
And this is a common thread that you're going to see. Like it was brought up before, it's doubtful that any refugees complained about the air show or like the idea of the air show.
It's this
what
guy.
it is it's predominantly white people who mother these people from other cultures and try and be their benevolent protector, and it's just like, blow it out your ass, get in the helicopter, we're done with it.
I see that, and I don't want anybody to take this in the wrong way. But when we started taking the Syrian migrants that were coming in, you had a lot of these parties that were being put up in order to raise money, in order to bring families in, which is fine. You know what? It's your money. You spend money on whatever you want. I like to keep my money in my country, and I like to help people that are here as Canadians as they are. But I think people do it because it's trendy. It's a neat thing to do. It's like having a little poodle, like a little fucking dog in a purse kind of thing.
It's social signaling. Look at how benevolent I am. Everyone look at me. Look at how much I care about these people that I'm not actually going to go and meet or spend time with or bring into my own home, but look at how much I care about them. Look at how oppressed they are.
But these are the same people that will walk Bay Street Monday to Friday and will pass by a homeless person and not offer them anything. So it's it's social justice and giving a helping hand without actually having to do anything and without having to show a face.
Yeah, it's social signaling at its finest. I'm disappointed because I work in the aviation industry in a tangential sort of a way, and having done ground school and glider and powered pilot stuff through the Air Cadet program, I'm a huge fan of air shows because this stuff is cool for me, and I get that it's not cool for everybody. But if you live in Toronto, you're going to see airplanes. You live near a giant airport. You live near several giant airports.
What are we going to do next? Are we then going to disband Warriors Day, the march for the CNE? Will that be the next thing that's on the block as well? Because what we're doing is
triggering.
Yeah, we are losing ourselves and we're losing our history, and that's a very dangerous thing.
I mean, there was and I hate to use this because it's an American example, but there was that university in Chicago recently that put out that article about they are not going to use trigger warnings for anything, and I applaud them for that because that's the real world. That's the world that we live in. It is a shame that certain things trigger certain people for traumatic memories, and I feel for those people that legitimately do have those problems because they actually have been in a war-torn area and something freaks them out. I feel for those people. But for the small percentage of people that are going to be affected, do we all need to go and change our lives because of that? No, because we live in the real world where things happen, and you know what? There's a lot of people that like air shows. I mean, I find it a bit of a pain in the ass because my office is not far from Pearson, so whenever they come in, they like fly over the building and the building shakes every now and again, and it's kind of annoying. But I also like going to the air show because it's fucking awesome. It's an air show.
Yep.
All right. Entirely aside, have any of you guys seen the Red Bull Air Races? Because
my God, those
yes,
are
amazing.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
Yeah.
ban them.
Yeah, I mean,
You guys are having too much fun.
Honestly,
do
do we really want to turn into a nation of pussies that can't do anything?
Bro, we're already a nation of pussies.
You say that
so much so that we're gonna import pussies to make our nation more pussified.
Canada made that hard left turn decades ago.
Yeah, it seems to me Trudeau Senior kind of turned the wheel to the left.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't.
Right over.
You wore a T-shirt 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I can't I can't knock immigrants because both of my parents are immigrants, and I can't even really knock
It's
like.
not about knocking immigrants.
Oh, I
It's
know,
about
and I can't
knocking
even.
these people that are
Oh
are
yeah,
what
it's.
did Tyler say? Mothering them? Like that.
Oh
We
yeah.
Yeah.
have to be so sensitive to their needs that we can't have air shows because we might offend somebody.
Oh, and I bet it's this guy has like tremendous amounts of white guilt and all kinds of nonsense like that like he's going out of his way to like make up for things that neither he nor his ancestors have actually done to anybody. He's just like he feels that way.
Yeah,
Well,
like there's a whole conversation to be had there with like the collapsing birth rates in the West and how like the collective instincts manifest themselves in the culture where the West tries to mother other like less developed cultures and pretend like we're their benevolent protector and that we know what's best for them and bring them into our societies and try and coddle them and protect them like children.
Yeah,
You
which
know,
is probably the most racist and like culturalist or whatever thing ever is like thinking that we're better than them. Like just let them be. Like if they have problems with it, they can use their own damn words.
yeah.
especially to me, considering if we're talking about legitimate refugees, these people are incredibly strong to have survived what they've gone through and dealt with
Exactly.
what they've gone through. These are the last people that need this over mothering. I mean, these people
Ah.
have seen reality and understand what reality is more so than the people that are trying to protect them from reality.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. There's a big difference between a hand up and a handout, and
Exactly.
Yeah.
we've stopped giving hand ups. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like, and to Marty's point, like, I mean, my father actually was a refugee from communist Albania, and when he escaped the country, like, they shot at him, like, from both sides of the border. And guess what I did with him on Father's Day? We went shooting, and he loved it. He's the one that taught me how to shoot, like, and he's been shot at in not a fun way, like, so, yeah. People need to stop being pussies. Especially stop being pussies for other people that haven't even said that their shit freaks them out. Like,
Yeah.
if they don't like it, don't go.
You know what happens to weak people? They get a great view of the Pacific from over top of Santiago.
I have made this argument before. We don't. Never mind. We're not talking about that. Let's talk about something that Marty mentioned just like 30 seconds ago, and our fearless leader wearing a T-shirt and going to a concert.
Oh God.
I
Who
talked
somehow
about,
made it about himself.
yeah, I talked about this very briefly on episode 40, and I want to hear the panel's opinion on Shiny Pony and the Hip.
I want to know how he got fucking tickets. I hope he didn't I hope he didn't exercise his shiny pony powers to get tickets to that, and like he actually got them legitimately. Because if he used any sort of like strings, I am going to be furious.
I love that CBC was all like, well, we were going to broadcast the Hip because, Canadians threaten to tar and feather us if we don't. But instead, let's make this a photo op for JT and Gord Downey.
So, I mean, Andrew, I've talked to you about it. I'm going to throw out my theory right now, and I'll hear other people's feedback. So this is my tinfoil hat moment right now. So, to me, the CBC paid $70 million to air the Olympics. They had a shit ton of advertisement money. They had a shit ton of income lined up for themselves for airing the Olympics. They made the decision to not air the Olympics and air the Hip concert instead, out of the goodness of their hearts. So, beforehand, I was pleasantly surprised that they'd made that choice, and I was questioning it. Like, why would the CBC make that choice? Why would they give up that money that they had kind of earmarked for themselves to air the Hip concert? And basically, after all of the sort of liberal propaganda that came out of that, it really made me question if there was some sort of liberal PR person that said, this is going to be a huge PR opportunity for the Liberal Party. CBC, you need to get the fuck on board, and we'll work this out later. So that's my tinfoil hat.
I would not be surprised. I mean, given how much money the Liberal government spends on the CBC, like
Yeah, I'm wondering if it
probably,
was
there was probably like a backroom deal. If you put this on and put JT center on the TV, like we'll give you an extra 10 million or some nonsense like that, and
Yeah,
make
that next round of budget funding, you guys can expect a
Yeah.
little increase. You know,
yeah,
wink,
make the
wink.
shiny pony look like he's cool and one of the people. Like,
Yeah, what was up with the Canadian tuxedo and a hip shirt? Why was he? Does he not have like somebody that dresses him?
I think that's exactly what he has.
And that's the best they could. You know what? Hey guys, let's put denim over denim and give him a hip T-shirt.
yeah, there's probably some guy in wardrobe like, yeah, let's make him look as Canadian as possible, eh? It's a little bit too warm
But he
for
has a
a toque,
list
though.
before he says it.
Yeah.
There is literally nothing this man does that does not embarrass me. If any other country's leader did this with a big name band from their country, like, would you not be embarrassed for that country?
Yeah, I mean, like if there was like a Springsteen concert and they like dressed Trump up in like an American flag like T-shirt and like pants and stuff like that.
When Mr. New York suddenly became Mr. New Jersey.
Yeah.
I don't think we're talking about God Emperor Trump on today's show, but good try.
Well, no, but like that would be the equivalent, like just like
No,
him.
no,
Like,
I get what you're saying. I can't believe like everything this guy does, everything that his
Yeah.
handlers allow him or encourage him to do.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you say that. That's his entire reason for being the prime minister. His entire reason for being the leader of the Liberal Party was that hip concert. It was so
that was the only way he could actually get tickets.
No, it was so that the Liberal Party could parade him out in these PR ops.
Yeah.
That's his job, is these PR opportunities.
Yeah.
I find the man to be an embarrassment, and he's an
Because he's
an
not a
embarrassment.
leader. That's why.
No, he's a drama teacher, so that's why he's good for these PR moments, and that's about it.
I didn't vote for him, and he doesn't represent me, and I don't see him as my leader.
Well, hey, Craig, easy there. The Liberals won a landslide majority government with 0.1% of the vote less than the Conservatives won with their minuscule majority government during the last election. So just like check your privilege.
All right, well, hold on.
More than
jumping in, by the
80%.
way.
More
Hold
than
on,
80% of Canadians didn't vote for Trudeau.
From everyone on the panel, raise your hand if you voted Liberal. And let me just say that for the two people who don't have videos showing, yeah, they didn't raise their hands either.
I was gonna say, I'm like, the silence was the sound of me not raising my hand.
Yeah, in total, if you take the people who voted Liberal and you break the numbers down, it amounts to about 19.4% of the Canadian population.
Clearly a majority. Clearly a majority.
You have just a touch shy of 1/5, basically through their consent, quote unquote consent, give these people absolute rule over the country. So
there's probably
an
more
trope.
people that didn't vote than voted for them.
So what you're saying is that we need
Helicopters.
election
I'm
reform?
saying that we need helicopters.
Multiple.
Well, I do think that there is some interesting election reform that can be had. I think if no votes amount to more votes than any candidate, then that amounts to the people choosing to have a vacant seat. That amounts to the people choosing to have no government. And I'm sure if you were to apply that, you would see like.
I haven't heard that was being one of the options being discussed so far.
No, it's not. But
well, right now your choices are to go on Twitter and tell. I don't remember what the woman's name is that's in charge of that. They're not having the referendum, but you should go on Twitter and tell her, because apparently Twitter is how we interact with politicians now.
Yeah, that's the only
and
way.
BuzzFeed is a news agency that you can source now.
Dude,
Yeah.
BuzzFeed has more reporters at Parliament than any other major news organization.
Well, how
Are
else
they
are they going to know
reporters,
if we
or
want
they
a
just,
referendum or not?
Sipping on a mocha frappa latte chino grande whatever at Starbucks
Dude, you missed.
on their MacBook Pro Air Edge, whatever the hell it's called, with their black rimmed glasses and their name that echoes.
Oh my God. What we need to bring politics and the teaching of politics back into the schooling system, so that you start educating students younger, so they understand more of what the voting process is and what the different parties are and what they do.
Government schools won't teach that to our children because government schools want to make good little drones that vote for the leftists, because without authority, who would tell them what to do?
Yeah.
Which brings me to our next article.
The liberal media, of course.
Which brings me to our next article from Global News. Bradish Chagar, who you might remember is an MP from the Kitchener-Waterloo region and is the Minister of Small Businesses and Tourism, has been named Speaker of the House in a recent cabinet shuffle. My mind is blown. I have nothing I can say. How did a rookie MP become Speaker of the House, aside from the fact that she has a vagina?
The same way that a rookie politician, just in general, that's never really been in politics, became Minister of Democratic Systems.
Well, yeah, there are a number of reasons, right? Because it's 2016. Didn't you know that?
I have heard that it is, in fact, the current year.
It is, in fact, the current year. So get with it, man. So, yeah, you're going to see appointees to a certain position. They're going to be young because that's the image they want to throw out there, because they want to capture the young, dumb vote. How did you guys like getting duped on the pot thing? Must suck, right?
Yeah, they're too stoned to notice.
Unfortunately, that means that all the people who voted for Trudeau on the basis of pot legalization are going to flock to the Libertarian Party and ruin it. So goodbye, Libertarian Party. But also, she was also put in that position because she is quite attractive. And she's also from a visible minority group. So it's like the trifecta.
I'm on board with the visible minority. I would not argue that she is attractive. Like, she is maybe a 5.
Okay, let's think of attractiveness in relative terms.
She's a young female. She's reasonably attractive. I completely agree with Tyler. That is the reason she's there.
So she doesn't look like Philpott, is what we're saying.
Okay, hold on a second. In relative terms,
or Trudeau Senior.
If you were to stack her up against every other person,
I would have a whole pile of bodies like this.
She is easy. She is easily in like the top fucking 5.
Yeah. And this is what's frustrating to me is, you know what, people that are, you know, pro-feminism or minorities or all kind of stuff, they take this as a win. And it's frustrating to me because this is not a win for feminism. This is not a win for minority. If a person is getting the job because of they're female or because they're minority, that's not a win. You know, it's a win for feminism when 50% of the cabinet are females because 50% of them are the most qualified people for the job.
Yeah.
When you're being selected, not because you're the most qualified person for the job, but because of some sort of race or some sort of visible minority status, that you're not furthering an equality goal.
And what it does is it actually steps it back even further, because when that person is put into that position of authority and then they fail, you're sending that wrong message that, maybe she was put there because of biological sex and because there's that cultural background. You're sending that message to people that are like, yep, that's exactly what I told you was going to happen. This is why she had it. Yeah. And the people that legitimately are there to support her, that think, it's a cool thing that it happened, it sends the wrong message to them, and it just puts them back further into their shell. So
and it's... I feel bad because she might be very good in this role. She might be very qualified for this job, but she has, as of yet, had the opportunity to prove herself. She's 5 months, 6 months into politics, and she was already given a cabinet job. Sorry, what's the terms? Cabinet? She was minister of whatever, and minister of tourism, or So on day one, her first day in politics, she got a promotion to be one of the cabinet ministers. Yeah. And then now 5 months later, after having done nothing, she gets the promotion again. And it's like, that's not, these aren't promotions based on merit.
No, exactly. And that was, when we talked about the cabinet appointments however many episodes ago, it's like, great, like a balanced cabinet, awesome. But like the problem is that it's balanced because it wanted to be balanced, not because they've earned those positions They did it just for a visual statement, and that is the
Yes.
most sexist thing of all.
Exactly.
Like, and if I was a woman and they did that, I would be incredibly angry. I would rather, like you said, I would rather have it all women that earn those positions over men.
Exactly.
I don't care what sex they are, what race they are, whatever they are, as long as they're qualified to do that. And when they are qualified to do it and have honestly earned that position, that's a win. But
Yeah.
putting them in place just because is sending the cause backwards 100 years. Like
to me, pre-deciding that, let's say for example from racial minority, if I was going to pre-decide I'm only hiring whites, that is exactly the same as saying predetermined that I'm hiring 50% whites.
But then again, when you're saying something like that, you then have to go even further, and based on eugenics, what do you consider as white?
Yes. Okay. I mean,
Well, what are
we
you
can
telling
break it
are you
all
saying
down,
you
but
can't
I
tell us
mean-
apart?
Being white,
We all
means
look the
that
same.
You're of European descent, except the Irish.
yeah.
yeah.
What do you do against my people?
Eugenics, even amongst the Europeans, they were all sort of split up into separate races. But anyways, I mean, in terms of my argument, it's exactly the same. It's a predetermination of any sort of race group before looking at any qualification is
But it's only
equally-
racist when you say that you're going to predetermine that everyone's white. It's only
Exactly.
sexist when you predetermine that everyone's going to be a man.
Yeah, and so what that does is it not only, obviously, it patronizes the group that you're giving preferential treatment to.
Right.
Because you're telling them, yes, no, you could not achieve this on your own. You couldn't do it unless we gave it to you, right? So that's the message you're sending. But it also sets the stage for the pendulum to swing the other way.
Yeah, when they do fail, they fail because they are a whatever minority group they're part of.
No, but what I mean is by giving one group preferential treatment, then you disenfranchise the other group.
Oh, for sure.
And then you set the stage for the opposite political action, which can and has in times like in history been quite ugly. So
Yeah. Well, that's how
to consider.
That's how
Well, I mean,
panelists
that's
like
how-
this and podcasts like this get started, right?
Yeah.
No, podcasts like this get started because the statists that are part of our electorate elect people that are like Justin Trudeau.
Yeah. Which is why we need to disenfranchise as many people as possible.
We're trying.
We need to have the podcast on how to fix the entire democratic system that we suffer from.
We
We're
should
doing
do
our
that.
best. Tens of listeners at a time.
Dude,
Yeah.
we should do that live. Like we should do
I
it
don't
live. Well, we're
we've
doing this
ever
live, but I
had-
mean like in person.
Yeah.
We have 9 people on YouTube right now. I don't think we've ever had this many people on YouTube.
It was at 10 earlier.
It was at
Yeah.
11 earlier.
It's
when
growing.
it came on.
It's growing. That and I mean,
Ah.
for every one
Oh,
of
it
you
just
guys
dropped to 8.
listening, they're
I'm
like,
not saying this is.
fuck this, I'm out of here. But no, for every one of you guys listening, one of us, one of.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Hopefully, the reason that we do this is that we're reaching people that are like us or that are on the fence and could be like us and want to reduce the amount of government interference in your life.
Yeah. Although I have a prime example is, so when I was away on my week-long sabbatical at camp, I was talking to actually people about the show, and they're like, "Oh, you do a podcast on politics," and like as politely as they could, they were kind of asking what way we lean, and I was like,
In the middle.
"Well," yeah, and I was like, "Well, the vast majority of us kind of identify as libertarian, but you would probably peg us as people on the right," and they were like, "Oh, well, I'm not going to listen then." And I mean, and that's exactly the problem, right? Like, I mean, we all read leftist media here because that's a thing that exists, and I would like to read their stance on it so I'm better educated on my stance on things.
Why there's always a problem with stuff like this is there's a difference between having a dialogue as opposed to somebody having a diatribe of diarrhea from their mouth as a monologue, right?
Yeah,
And
and like,
I don't know. Just
and I just found that the perfect example of it's like, okay, so we don't agree on ideas, but you're not even willing to listen to my viewpoint.
No,
but I mean,
and I wouldn't even say that libertarian is extreme right, though. I mean,
No,
it's
but I
right,
mean,
it's
I would say
right
the
but
average
it's
uninformed person would assume, especially like us on this podcast, are right-leaning as opposed to center.
yeah.
Very much right.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, definitely.
you
Far
might
far
even say
right, extreme right.
alt-right.
Yeah, you might. But the
There's
thing
a
is,
lot of things.
libertarianism, especially in the United States more so than in Canada, has been totally co-opted by the left.
yeah,
And as I
Yeah.
outlined like 20 minutes ago, when the pot voters realize they're not going to get the change they want voting liberal, they're going to flock to the Libertarian Party, and Libertarian Party will be lost to them. The gun-owning, pro-freedom, pro-liberty types are going to be outnumbered by the pot-smoking hippies who we want a society that honors, freedom, liberty, self-sufficiency. It's a meritocracy, and you will rise and fall on your own merits, on your own individual characteristics, and nobody's responsible for your lot in life but yourself. But these left libertarians, what they want is they want a society where people are forced to tolerate their shitty behavior. So they want to be able to smoke pot in public, but really, in a true libertarian society, there is no public. Everything is privately owned. So you can only do what is permitted.
Yeah. Like, if smoking pot is considered to be a left-leaning policy, libertarians are for it. Go ahead. Like, there's a lot of policies that overlap.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what's great about it. But I mean, at the same time, yeah, like Tyre's saying, like, being like a leftist libertarian doesn't really make sense, but yet they sort of exist because there are certain policies that they know that we will fight for because we believe in personal choice and liberty.
Yes.
Yeah.
So socially, I think socially libertarians are not super right-leaning. They're not super conservative socially. They're not sort of religious right.
No. But I believe that if people want to do that in their own home, they should be able to do so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is one thing, is a lot of people will feel like social norms are oppressive, right? But they're not. Social norms, that's basically the market manifesting itself within society, in that there are certain types of behavior that are preferred versus other kinds of behavior. So, for example, there was never any law, as far as I know, in Canada, forcing men to wear shirts. But yet, you walk into a store, you will see no shirt, no shoes, no service. You'll see that sign on many stores still. You see that at malls, things like that. Yep. And that's just the market manifesting itself. This is the standard of decency we want in our private establishment. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that would be the way it would work.
I would really prefer that, and if everybody could be upfront about that, so I knew who I was doing my business with, who I was giving my shekels to in exchange for services or goods, so that I was able to deal with like-minded people. So if you didn't want my business because I choose to not wear a shirt, then I will go somewhere that embraces my bare-chestedness.
Yeah. And speaking of people not wanting business, I'm going to use this as a segue of sorts, if that's all right.
This is what got me interested in the podcast tonight. Is I want to hear who you have a beef with.
So
who doesn't he have a beef with?
Oh, everybody, but specifically these people, or this person in general, because there is only one of them left, I guess. But I have some. I'd like to do what Andrew used to call the widget of the week, where I would show a shiny new thing. The only problem is I don't have the shiny new thing that I ordered some 80 days ago from a company called S&J Hardware. I ordered an extractor and a jumbo safety for my 870 for competition. Hasn't shown up. I have emailed them. I have called and left messages multiple days in a row.
Let me guess. You're going to get an email. He's going to cite that he's having issues with his Crohn's disease. His basement has flooded. He's got family issues. But if you look on his Facebook, a couple of months back, he bought a whole bunch of
crazy.
Yeah, he bought a lot of stuff from One Shot. He bought a bunch of not canoes, but he bought kayaks.
Oh, yeah.
And he also just absorbed a company with Canadian Gunworks that.
Yeah.
This is only hearsay. So, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they unfortunately purchased Spatha Tactical from Sean.
That's it. That's right.
Yeah.
Which, for anyone that is going to order from those guys moving forward, is probably going to be.
I have to interrupt. I don't know if Sean is listening. We miss Sean, but also shout out to Sean and his recent personal issues that he's overcoming.
I actually spoke to Sean today, actually. He was curious about who the company was. He was worried that it was KDEX, and I said, no, don't worry. I don't have enough money to order anything from you guys, to have problems from you guys. But if I did have problems when I get that kind of money, that I would talk to him directly, much like I tried to do with Simon. But he never returned my emails or phone calls, multiple phone calls, day after day after day after day. Even when I threatened to... revoke my credit card and reverse the charge, which, oddly enough, when I went to go do that today, because I'd kind of given them a deadline of,
today.
If I don't hear from you by a certain date, I'm going to reverse this charge. When I went to go do that today, the lazy fuck hasn't even run my credit card from when I placed the order 80 days ago. There was no charge. So...
Is he aware that you're a celebrity in the Canadian firearms-related podcast scene?
Well, seeing as we are not Facebook friends, I doubt it. But I am hoping that, maybe he's listening to this, or someone will direct him to this, so that he realizes his faux pas, and at the very least, they can sort out their business. Because oddly, I'm not the first person to have a complaint about them, nor am I the first person on this panel to have a complaint about them.
Let me tell you a few short stories about Simon.
They're shitty business practice.
Okay.
So
I'm sure one of our tons of listeners will get in contact with them for you.
Once upon a time, I ordered a pair of rails for shotgun receivers from him, one Mossberg, one 870, and I received two for the 870. So I, wrote him an email, informed him of his mistake, and then he expected me to return the incorrect rail at my own expense. And I'm just like, what the hell, man? And to his credit, when he did send the correct one, he sent a bonus, shotgun follower. Okay, fine. That's worth $2. Whatever.
Yeah.
But that was a mistake. Kind of didn't like the way he went about it, but, kind of I'm on the fence as to how that one went down. Privately, with his Gun Nuts account, I bought a pair of Daniel Defense AR-15 iron sights, front and rear. And, it took him like 2 weeks. He had no trouble cashing my EMT right away. It took him like 2 weeks to get the things mailed out. They didn't arrive. The tracking number he gave me showed that they had arrived, but arrived in like some other town. And he's like, I sent them to the wrong guy and all this. And I was just like, look, man, just give me my money back. And then sure enough, like 3 days later, they were in my hands. So, there was that, and then what else? I was in the market for a heavy AR-15 buffer. I go to order on the website. They show stock, send the order. To his credit, sends me an email right away saying the stock count's off and they're out. But they might have some that were outside of the stock count that they had been moving around from trade shows, and that he would get back to me within a day or two. He never got back to me. And I'm just like, all right, whatever. I found another source for the heavy buffer that I wanted. But I met him at the charity shoot in June. And I was like, hey, I'm Tyler. And he's like, oh, yeah, you ever do any business with us? I said, yeah, I've bought a few of your products. And he's like, oh, did I ever screw any orders up? And I said, yeah, a few, but, kind of in the wash, like it all came out okay. And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry. So he kind of like, he knows his faults. But it's just kind of like the nature of the Canadian gun market where we're stuck dealing with these people.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to put things in perspective, today is August 29th, and I ordered this part on June 10th.
That's brutal.
Well, then you should be doing business with Tactical Ordnance then. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and I guaranteed moving forward I will be, but I mean, they were supposed to have like the 870 police extractor in stock and the jumbo safety in stock. So I bought it from them.
I've ordered S&J hardware parts through Canadian Tactile Cowboy Supplies, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And I had no problems. They arrived like later that week, and
Yeah, but that's because they're like an actual good company that will tell you if they actually have something in stock. Like I've gone and bought one of their followers from what is it, Firearms Center or whatever in Oshawa, and like they actually had it on the shelf. And when I go into my gun club at Silverdale and in the store there, they've got S&J parts on the shelf ready to go. But somehow they can't seem to manage their web store, like to the point where they don't even put a credit card transaction through.
so my point was order their parts through someone else.
Oh, I'm not going to order their parts at all anymore. Like they can go fuck themselves as far as I'm concerned. They're not getting a dime out of me.
Let me give my story at least. I've only got one. But when I first got on Gun Nuts, it was when I was first, looking to buy my first 870. I wanted to carry what we had at work, and I ended up getting an 870. And I'd asked some questions and posted some stuff up, and I'd gotten some feedback from people, and then I'd actually gotten a private message from Simon saying that if you link to here, this is the package you should get because it has everything that is upgradable, and you get it as one thing. And I thought, oh man, that is so cool. I paid for it, sent the EMT, and this is going back a few years, and I never got it. And it's the same thing. Cashed the EMT right away, and I waited months and months and months and months. And it was just a simple, oversized safety, a better follower, and what else is it that he offers? There's a couple other small things as well. But it's a whole upgrade thing that he does.
Well, yeah, I mean, he seems to have no problem sending away like shotguns for guys that make videos and stuff like that of how awesome his shotgun upgrades are. But
yeah.
You should point out though that the products that he does make and does ship out are actually good. I have the enlarged Mossberg safety. I have the enlarged 870 safety. I have their +1, their +2, and +3 extensions for the 870. I have their clamp and rail. They're actually good products. I mean, we'll give them that.
New price too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's if you actually fucking get one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a refund, months and months and months later, and then I ended up sending my shotgun to Tactical Ordnance and got a full Van Comp job done on it, and I did the guy at TACORD, Casey. I got referred to him through a friend who works with him, and that guy's top notch, man, top notch. So that's where I send my stuff, and that's where everything will go.
So Andrew, you want to bitch about the quality of S&J stuff?
Well, no, I want to get on this because I actually have a very lengthy review on building a tactical shotgun on everydaytactical.com/tactical-shotgun, where I have a bunch of S&J hardware stuff that worked really well because it was all in stock and it shipped with relatively minor problems. But I've also, Casey, and I'm just as happy to send my stuff to TACOR and have him do everything and send it back when it's done, because he's the only place in Ontario, if not Canada, that you can get a Van Comp job.
I believe, they are the only one. Yeah.
But the S&J stuff that I have on my 870, on one of my 870s, because I own like 3 or 4 870s, because guns are an addiction and I have a problem. But the S&J stuff that I have, if you can get it, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the customer service from S&J.
Yeah, I mean, I have one of their followers in my 870, and it has worked. I mean, the rest of the gun hasn't worked so good, but that follower has worked every single time. And yeah, I mean, I've seen some of their other stuff, and their products are good, but yeah, like his customer service is absolute shit. Like, I can't believe they're still in business. Like, how do they deal with guys that are placing like multi-$1,000 orders? Like, does he give them the same bullshit, or is it just like Joe Schmoes like me that get the shaft because I'm not an internet celebrity?
Yeah, that's pretty well it.
Which unfortunately, I mean, we kind of are. We're getting, what is it, like 300 downloads a week?
Between 250 and 300, yeah.
Yeah, so there's going to be, 250 and 300 people now that know that S&J Hardware's customer service is bullshit and that they should just go elsewhere, like TACORD or what is it? Nordic Components makes a nice follower that looks
I
almost exactly the
love
same.
Nordic
No, it
components.
doesn't look anything like the S&J hardware follower, and this is one thing I wanted to bring up. That the S&J hardware follower works great in a factory tube, but it doesn't have the length or design to reliably make the hop from an extension back to the factory mag tube. And I've experienced this problem. I've experienced this problem both in practice and in a match, and I've replaced it with a Nordic Components follower, which when you have one in your hands and you see the design, you'll see why it will move more reliably between the two. And I run them in both my Versamax and my 870.
Oh, there you
But
go.
the other thing was I also wanted to speak similar praises to Casey at Tactical Ordnance. He threaded my 18.5-inch barrel for me, did it on the spot, short notice, cash transaction, and he did it like while I waited. Essentially, it was awesome. So he treated me well, and I'll definitely funnel business to him. He's got a nice little operation going, and the work was exceptional.
Yeah,
Well,
that's good.
there you go. So we may have lost one sponsor this evening, but hopefully we've gained a couple others.
That's all right. We'll just go ahead and rank them right up where there with that company that starts with N.
The thing about NEA is that NEA is like the products they design are like okay to mediocre to like above average. There's nothing exceptional that they really put out. But the quality control is like as a rule garbage, just shit. And I feel like the majority of the problems that NEA has encountered have been with the assembly of their rifles, the assembly of their components, but the components themselves have been generally okay.
What's their customer service like, though?
Their customer service is apparently legendary. They always make it right.
Well, so what? Those two companies need to partner up then, and hopefully shed the shitty parts and combine the good parts.
If I can pop in here, and unfortunately I do have a dog in this fight. The owner of NEA is a good friend of mine that I've come to know over the years. And what it was is they make these products that are ITAR friendly or exempt, one or the other, so they can go to these countries and not have to worry about issues with things that are made in America.
Yeah.
ITAR exempt because they're not made in the United States.
So
yeah.
what was happening was there was an issue with the parts that they were receiving from a company called MTAN. MTAN was supplying their lower parts kits, their bolt carrier groups, and some other parts as well. And there was really bad quality control with MTAN. MTAN is a huge company. I can't remember where they're from. I think they're over in Europe or they're Israeli or something like that.
I thought they were German. I might be wrong on that.
Sorry, they could very well be. And I've seen some of their product. And that was the batch over those 2 years, 3 years of stuff that kind of went out, unfortunately, and that's where the problems occurred. So once those guns were starting to surface, of course, Jeff wants to stand behind everything that he produces, and he does 100%. I've been up to, I go to his place semi-regularly. I haven't been up there for a little while. But I see the stuff that comes in that I know some of the ones that are being posted on Gun Nuts about, there's this particular problem, but it actually turns out that it's a problem that's been done by the owner, trying to install something improperly or something like that. But it doesn't matter. He will change that. When it came down to things, when he would regularly swap rails for guys when he went to the underneath clamping system rather than the one on the sides, which there's no real problem with it. It just aesthetically it doesn't look right. So now he has another higher end supplier, and this supplier of lower parts kits and other pieces like that provide parts to other higher end manufacturers, and I I'm privy to some stuff, so I can't actually say who they are. But you'd be quite surprised. with
Name
some of
names,
these-
it's fine.
I mean, I'll do it in person, just not on the air.
Okay, so one thing
I
to
understand
clarify.
that. Sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
understand that, but so in the industry I work in, I deal with some manufacturing side of things, and there's IQC or IQA, incoming quality control, incoming quality assurance, depending on your company, and it is your responsibility for your company that you are verifying the quality of the components that are coming in and that you're using on your product.
Absolutely.
Once you put it on your product, that is your responsibility that part is to spec. So the fact that they had a poor supplier, that's no excuse for them continuing to use those parts or to ever use out of spec parts on their product.
Once that came to light, I can honestly say, the purchase and the use of those parts ceased immediately. And they send out a lot of their platforms to different countries for different wars or different police services and different things like that, and nothing ever comes back. There's a Canadian contracting company that uses NEA platforms, just branded differently, and there's never any issues of those coming back. And it's going to take him a while, and he will freely admit this, and which is one of the reasons why I like him. He's very grounded with things. He doesn't lie. He doesn't beat around the bush about stuff, and he will tell you, yeah, those couple years, he nearly killed him and the company, and he's trying to dig out, and that way he can stay within the commercial market. If it was something that, it was totally going down the shitter, it's going to end up in the sewers, you know what, he would have left the commercial market altogether and just would have stayed in private industry, where 90% of his product actually ends up. And there's a little bit of a difference between, something that's going out to fight a war or that is being issued to somebody that is going to be slinging bullets downrange, as opposed to our kind of modern sporting rifle that we've all come to love. But it's going to take a few years. But he's a good guy. I stand behind him. I understand his problems, and I'm happy to have some of his products.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, I hope that's true. I hope to see that they can kind of recover their name, because it'd be great to have, the more Canadian firearms companies we have, the better. So it's good to see, and just to get more Canadian industry in general is great. So hopefully you can kind of recover for some of the damage that was done to the name.
Like I asked earlier, like if their customer service is good, that's going to bring people back. If you make a shitty product, but you have good customer service, people are at least willing to give you another try.
Yep.
And then you can prove, hey, like, look, this was a bad batch, this was whatever. And then if it works, then like, all right, they fixed my problem, it went away, I don't have that problem again. But if you have shitty customer service, it doesn't matter how good your product is. Nobody's going to want to do business with you. Like, I mean...
Yeah. And I don't know if Dave McFowle still works with NEA.
No, he doesn't. He left the company a few years ago after whatever issues happened on CGN, and because Jeff doesn't get involved with social media.
Yeah, Shillgate. That's what that was.
He's the same as Steve Troy from Troy Industries. He does not get involved with social media.
Good man.
Well, I had met Dave McFowle at Tough Mudder, actually. I met him. He was running the Wounded Warriors, booth and all that. And this was before Wounded Warriors was revealed to be like a total scam, where they're throwing $1 million parties and all that. But that's beside the point. Seemed like an honest and genuine guy.
4 veterans.
4 veterans, yeah. Seemed like an honest and genuine guy. So I had the good fortune of meeting him. But my first AR was an NEA that I built myself with NEA parts, and I never had an issue with it. In fact, I found the performance exceptional. I've owned no fewer than 5 NEA receiver sets in my career as a gun owner, and I've been happy with every single one.
Yep.
So there's something to be said there. The barrel performance actually I found to be exceptional when comparing it to what people perceive to be rack grade AR performance. I've always
You
found
would
it to be
be
exceptionally accurate.
you would be very, very surprised and shocked if you knew where the barrels came from.
And I know that this is like a closely guarded secret. This isn't the first time I've heard that.
Yep.
That they do, the blanks come from like a high-end manufacturer, et cetera, et cetera. Don't know, but I'm told that they come from a well-respected supplier, and I feel like the performance that I've experienced definitely reflects that.
Yep.
And anytime I've kind of divested myself mostly of the NEA parts. I shoot a Colt Canada IUR and a Colt Canada SA20 for the most part. But when I sold those parts off, I sold the my 12-inch handguard, for example, to a friend of mine, Tim, and it was the old style, where the clamping happened at 3 and 9 o'clock.
Yep.
And I told him, I was like, look, man, all you need to do is just go to NEA and be like, I'm not satisfied with this product, and they will, like, no questions asked, give you the newer model where it clamps at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
And they will take care of you. And, to date, he's been happy with the product. And one thing I will say about their handguards in particular, they are lightweight, and they're excellent for heat dissipation. It's a good product. So there's that much to be said about them.
I consider myself lucky to be friends with him. I've got nothing bad to say about him. Yeah, I know everybody. There's people that have problems. There's fanboys like you have with a lot of other products, and then you have the people that whenever their name is mentioned in a thread anywhere on the internet, they'll come in and they'll shit on it. That's just the way it is. And I know of what his product does. I know what his product is doing outside of our country. And I'm happy that it's a Canadian company that are providing these platforms that are out there performing and saving lives. And that's, if like I said, I think I've mentioned before, we're coming up to the 2nd year anniversary in October of when that guy stormed our parliament. And you had the response of all the Ottawa officers, not the ones that the OPP or the RCMP that work the actual grounds. And if you look at a lot of those pictures, you'll see some of those Ottawa police officers with their carbines. They have really small silencers on them, and those were provided by NEA, and they're performing exceptionally.
Andrew and I know a gentleman with one of those mini cans.
So that's that's the way it is. I can only say so much because I support him and I support the company. And hopefully it is something
I have very little against NEA. I just don't expect they're going to be sponsoring the podcast anytime soon.
Well, maybe more so now than previously, and certainly before S&J will.
I got to balance it out. I do have one gripe about an NEA product that I think was poorly designed, and that was their hybrid brake. The spiral cuts in the brake went the wrong direction. And they made it so that the brake wanted to spin off the gun. And even correctly torqued down on a crush washer, I had that thing fly off the end of a barrel while shooting.
Oh, that's just something extra that came with the package. I think it was intentional.
An extra projectile for free, for no extra charge, right? That was one thing, I was like, damn, the fluting or the cuts, they should go the other way, but it is what it is.
Well, I think we've got, one more topic? Crossbows?
One more topic, crossbows. Let's ban crossbows. Can I get an amen?
Yeah, let's crush another industry.
The magazine size of the crossbows?
Well,
I think that's called a ballista.
Yeah, no, you're not allowed to have more than 5 crossbow bolts on you at any one time. That's how that works now, right?
Oh well. What's the story with this? Was there another killing with one or something? Or
there was in Scarborough, and there were 3. It was 3 killings in Scarborough. Although I think only one of them actually involved it as a projectile, and the rest were more of a case of stabbery with a crossbow bolt.
Has that actually been? Has that come out?
I don't know that is confirmed. I have read that they used the crossbow bolt for at least one of the murders. I'm going to go ahead and call it a murder. I don't know that that's the official term.
So,
and stabbery with a crossbow bolt for... Sorry, go ahead.
Does anyone on the panel have a crossbow? I do.
I have a regular bow because I am a man and not handicapped.
I have
guns
a
because fuck that.
I have a regular bow as well, but like I have a crossbow too, just because I collect shit like that.
Right.
But has anyone ever tried to? Has anyone tried to ever reload a crossbow?
No.
Yeah,
I think we all just said yes. We have crossbows.
except me. I have a compound bow, but I've shot a crossbow. I know what it entails.
Yeah, you're gonna reload your bow much faster than a crossbow. So I would tend to believe that maybe one guy was shot and then the other two are likely stabbed. Because if I was like trying to reload my crossbow, the other two guys could have ran at me and tackled me to the ground probably before I could reload that thing. Just saying. If I had to guess.
So
I mean,
well, considering you don't even need a license to go and buy one.
no, and that kills me. So there's an article that I referenced in the Toronto Sun because all of a sudden
you used to have to show your PAL to buy one, but you didn't register it back when they had the gun registry.
Yeah.
no, this
No,
Joe
you just need to be of
Warmington-
age.
Yeah,
Always.
this Joe Warmington guy was like, "There's no license needed to own one," and somehow this guy is writing for the Sun. Obviously, there's no license to own one. It's a freaking crossbow.
But I don't know.
Like,
When I did my PAL like fucking 15 some years ago, you needed one. Like you couldn't just go and buy one. You had to show your PAL to purchase a crossbow, but it wasn't registered at the time. It's like so there was no registry for crossbows, but you did have to show that you had a gun license to buy a crossbow.
That must have just been a Toronto thing.
It may very well have been.
sounds like nonsense.
It is
No,
not.
if you looked at the regulations, that's what it was for at least a brief period of time.
Yeah, it was my understanding that for a brief period of time, a PAL was required to buy a crossbow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That is the second stupidest thing I have heard today.
Yeah.
Well, they're kind of gun.
Well, I dare ask, what was the first?
Oh, you don't want to know. It's not even worth it.
So one of the things that bugged me in the article was the comment that it's easier to buy a package of cigarettes than it is to buy a crossbow.
Who cares?
Yeah, Craig is right. Who cares? Why does that matter?
So first
Why
off, who cares? What does it have to do with yourself? Also, it's the same. You have to show ID. Both.
Yeah.
You know what? It's also easier to buy a 2-liter bottle of Coke than it is to buy a crossbow, and the obesity is killing this country.
Yeah, which is arguably more dangerous to our health as a society.
Yeah, so
There's just so much annoyance in that
for those
statement.
3 people.
Wow, that's all right. Man, go.
Yeah.
God damn it.
But I mean, that's the the leftist logic, right? Like, look at these 3 people that were horribly murdered with a crossbow. Let's ban them all because clearly this is a problem.
If it could save one life.
Yeah.
Like what happens if we all of a sudden have a mass murder and it's done by somebody with a big bag of dildos?
That sounded like he was going somewhere.
That actually is taking place right now.
Yeah. Cocks, not Glocks.
And it's called the Trudeau Mandate.
Let's ban all dildos.
But then we'll ban the dildos, sure. But does that extend to the figurative sense of dildo? Like, can we ban the leftist cucks?
No.
And what about dildo Newfoundland? Are we going to ban the town of Newfoundland? Like,
we can give them free helicopter rides.
Yeah. Okay. Again, the only form of welfare that I will endorse. The free helicopter ride.
No,
but you know what? Even then,
buy
we
tickets.
can claw the
to
cost
cut
of
this
people
short,
back from their estate.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's a tax. They love taxes.
The disposal tax, we'll call it that.
So similarly to the firearms thing, it's not the weapon, it's the person.
Absolutely.
No,
Of course.
And it's the same. And it's the same
obviously.
argument with when we had the ban on pit bulls. It's ban. It's the deed, not the breed. I don't know a whole heck of a lot about that stuff, right? Like, I'm on the fence about things like that. I don't like pit bulls because of personal interactions with them. And
but are shitheads buying them and making them aggressive, or are they actually aggressive?
That I don't know. That's something I would have to research and go in depth in before I would make an honest decision about it. But banning the breed, I don't know. I mean, that would have to be something we would have had to have talked about back when that was happening, right?
Well, but to go along with that, I mean, I don't know how many people can see the lazy little white and brown lump behind me. That's my bulldog. Bulldogs are bred for bear baiting. Do you think he's going to take out a fucking bear?
Maybe a really little stupid bear, like Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna throw a random. I'm gonna throw a random anecdote on here on this one. So I'm from Dutch descent. My father's from Holland and that. And around the time when Ontario was looking at banning pit bulls, Dad made the comment to me. He's like, in Holland they've banned pit bulls. When Holland bans anything, the rest of the world should probably stop and take a notice of that.
Yeah.
You guys just like your tulips too much.
What do you have against tulips?
Fuck tulips.
So it's one of those
ban
things.
tulips.
I may not agree with it, but the comment has always kind of made me laugh. It's like,
Wow.
if the country that lets kind of anything go, if they're like, hey, maybe we should take a look at
They
this.
ban bulldogs or ban pit bulls, yeah. But have they banned crossbows?
No, crossbows are still good as far as.
Well,
I know.
then we're good. We're good then.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, that's so ridiculous banning fucking crossbows. Like, let's ban kitchen knives and baseball bats and everything else. Then, like,
They do that in the UK. They want you to bin your knife. Save a life.
Which should also be noted, the
about
UK is the most violent country in Europe.
That's only because they banned all the guns, and now everybody that's a criminal is like, hey,
And
bitches,
they also have
what's up?
They
hopefully-
have a huge teenage pregnancy rate as well. Like that country's gone down
I
the shitter.
don't know that is correlation, but I do enjoy that you're bringing that up. Thank you.
Actually, that is actually a great correlation because if you read the book Freakonomics, they go into that and how crime rates have gone down because there are fewer bastard children running around with daddy issues because they just weren't born. So they're not out there committing crime and beating people up and killing them and taking their money.
Yeah,
more dads with guns equals less boyfriends with pants around their ankles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The majority of people committing violent, serious crimes are males between the age of 15 and 30, and it's going to be exaggerated if there are no older males to knock some sense into them. So that should be noted.
I will tell you, and it is public knowledge if you want to look it up, and it is out there. My first shootout was with a 15-year-old in 2003. 15 years old.
Yeah.
So
there's that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the UK.
No laws stop that kid having a gun.
Yeah, laws
No.
against the stabbing is an epidemic in the UK. Okay, they solved the gun problem, but they haven't solved the murder problem.
No, they've just
whoa, my feels are so tenderized. My butt is so soothed because people aren't getting shot to death; they're only getting stabbed to death. What a ridiculous policy.
It's a good thing they got that monkey off their back.
Doug Stanhope has a great bit on it, and he's like, the UK, he went to the UK and he sees an advertisement telling people not to beat up EMTs because that was a big enough problem that they had to create a billboard for it. And what was interesting is that you could get into a fight being reasonably confident that people weren't carrying a gun, unlike in the United States. And if you get all beat up and you get a tooth knocked out and you get you have to get it cut, you get your forehead all cut up or whatever, the state picks up the tab. You have a socialized healthcare system, so there's basically no incentive to not just go beat the piss out of one another. But in the United States, the guy might be packing, and then also if you get a tooth knocked out or whatever, you're stuck with the bill. So there are a lot of incentives that work against reckless behavior.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I feel like we haven't really explored deeply enough, and that's probably because we drink too much. In theory,
I don't drink too much. You have a problem. I don't have a problem.
I wouldn't say it's a problem, but it's just the question of the incentives and how that plays out in societal norms, what's considered to be normal and acceptable. and the incentives are huge. And the government is obviously a big string puller in what the incentives are.
And something that Tyler, you kind of touched on quickly, but also the difference between reporting deaths versus gun deaths
Yeah.
is a very that's a very important topic. I think John Lott on his sort of More Guns Less Crime is a good reference for that one.
Well, and even when they report like gun deaths, like you need to cut out all the idiots that like shoot themselves in an accident versus the people that do it on purpose versus actual gun murders
or suicides.
Yeah, when you put like accidents and suicides in the overall numbers of gun deaths, I mean you're going to triple the numbers right there because there's at least 2 to 1 suicides to get people actually getting shot.
Well, not just that, but when they cite gun deaths, they also include legitimate like self-defense homicides and legitimate police shootings as well.
Yeah, and they don't break out that number, which you need to do. Because they go, oh, look, gun deaths have gone down substantially. And you're like, well, no, but if you take out all those suicides and everything else, probably the amount of gun violence hasn't really changed all that much.
And the gun violence that does occur.
Yeah.
Let's, it's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about.
Oh, I'll talk about it.
There are times weekly. Yeah, there are legitimate victims at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But generally,
I'm not discounting that.
Yeah, the gun violence that does occur within the GTA, as it is now, or across Canada as it is, it's because it's targeted because of the lifestyle that person is living. And people don't want to. There will be people that will come out and they will cry about that, and then that kind of gets, trampled on when you get the rhetoric people that come out afterwards that want to talk about banning of guns and turning things in and all that other stuff as well.
Yeah, and they always want to talk about how gun violence has gone down, but not how knife violence or bludgeonings have gone up.
Yep. Or
why violence figure down? That's a huge moral victory, and like the rest of the facts be damned. You don't let that get in the way of a good story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
just like Andrew and getting arrested by the police before a match. I mean, you don't let facts get in the way of a good story.
I was not arrested, sir. I was merely detained.
Yeah.
Sure you were.
So can we say unofficially that the goal of the panel should be to exercise their rights as publicly and provocatively as possible so that everybody is detained at least once?
That would bode well for me.
That is not the goal of the panel.
Fine, guys, I'll step up my game. Then our shooting team could be the detainees.
So how provocative does Craig need to be before he gets?
Yeah, I was just going to ask. At what point does Craig get arrested?
He doesn't need to be any more provocative than any of us. He just needs to only flash his badge at the end. You gotta withhold the badge until the very end.
Because that would be the kicker.
Say badge or badge.
Because then I'll be able to say, "Ha! You fucked with the wrong person."
Yeah. Full rank.
I know your boss's boss. Do push-ups.
Yeah. No, just quickly on that. I even changed my transporting container. Because everybody has those big, long, soft, cases by either Condor or 511.
But it is not soft.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what?
Right now.
I locked it. Everything inside had trigger locks on it and stuff like that as well. It's an opaque container. It's not easily broken into. But even nowadays, whether in my civilian life or whether it's in my professional life, it's just I stepped it up, and I just when all those Vanguard rebranded cases go on sale at Canadian Tire, I now transport in those because despite what I do outside of this panel, all I need is that one wrong stop. And you know what? Yeah, I could get in shit, or fuck, man, I could get shot. So I don't want to be the one that has to Monday morning. Dear Chief, funny thing happened on the weekend on the way up to CQB. I don't need to type one of those letters. Or I don't know.
I won't be coming into work today.
Yeah.
How does that work? Is your one phone call your boss and be like, yeah, so Another organization detained me, and I'm in holding. If
Yeah.
you could all come and bail me out, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah. Alternate agents of the state have detained me.
Yeah,
So
there's
Craig, you're saying you don't recommend leaving your Swiss Arms on the dash of your vehicle?
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing illegal about that.
as long as it's the non-restricted.
I didn't ask if it was illegal. I asked if it was recommended.
Non-restricted and unloaded. That's it. The only requirement to transport a non-restricted firearm is that it be unloaded. And then if you leave the vehicle, then it should be hidden from view. Or if the truck has a lockable container in the back, then it should be in there. That's what the law says.
Completely
There were
agree.
no laws broken.
All I want to say is that the non-restricted Swiss Arms it's a beautiful piece of machinery, man.
It's
It is.
amazing. It's the cure for erectile dysfunction. I have to rent it out all the time to the hospital.
I briefly fondled Tyler's Swiss Arms in Brockville. It gave me an instant hard-on.
Yeah.
There used to be a guy at
I mean-
CQB a couple years ago that used to travel from Quebec, and he had the short version, which would obviously be restricted.
Yeah.
And he used to shoot in our line a few times. Really a nice guy. He used to wear the tank goggles, and he used to wear a tank helmet. And
Sounds
that
like a
thing.
cool guy.
But he you know what? He was hilarious, and he shot well. That was my first introduction to the Swiss Arms platform, and it's just on my list of you know what? I got to get one.
Which, to be fair, if you're going to get one, you need to get the NEA lower to go with it to use the AR mags.
Which is true, and that's actually something I didn't mention earlier. The NEA lower for the Swiss Arms is awesome.
Stop
Not
plugging
only-
NEA. They're not paying for a sponsorship.
Yet,
right.
but they might
Yeah.
after this episode.
Yeah, not only NEA mags, not only AR mags, but AR stocks.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the Swiss Arms stock is like it is what it is, but it's like a very expensive upgrade to just get a cheek piece for it. If you want to use an optic.
So with the Swiss Arms, am I correct in what you're saying then? Is the upper the
The upper is
registered?
considered the receiver, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, and so the upper it's like a self-contained firearm essentially, and you know I guess it's really not any different than the AR upper to lower relationship. Like all the firing components are contained within the upper. I suppose the difference is that with the AR, the recoil spring is in the lower in the receiver extension,
Yeah.
but for the Swiss Arms, the recoil spring is contained within the piston system. The recoil spring is actually located forward of the bolt carrier group.
Yeah. I know Target Sports still has a couple of them. I've seen them there, and I've seen them in boxes elsewhere.
But you know, look. So what? Just out of curiosity, if you've been researching the firearm, what's the current retail on those guns now?
Aren't they like 25?
Oh,
2,500?
if you found one at 2,500, you should go buy. You should buy 3.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll buy one from you for 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
I
know
thought they
they're
were
up there.
north of 4 now.
Holy shit!
I can't remember what the best price I saw for one was, but I think it was at SFRC had the best price. But then when you put the lower in on top of that, that's like another grand for the lower.
Yeah, because I also keep looking at the Robinson
XCR?
XCR, and I keep going to it, and then I keep seeing the reviews online, and then I'm like, fuck, do I want to take that chance?
No. Okay, hold on. First of all, the XCR is an awesome gun. The reviews were, similar to NEA due to growing pains with the platform and the company.
Absolutely.
They say that from revision G forward, basically the gun is good to go.
And it's non-restricted.
And it's non-restricted. Revision G begins at serial number 7000. My gun is serial number 7009. Up until I used ATRS AT-15 pistol mags in my rifle, was the most reliable gun I have ever owned. I had 6,000 rounds through the gun without a failure.
Now, is yours the 308 or 5.56?
No, XCRL in 5.56.
Yeah, because there's I can't remember the guy's name that comes to CQB. He swaps back and forth between his NEA and his XCR, and he shoots it in the in 308, and he has nothing but problems with his. And Yeah, kind of sucks, but I mean, I think those things are sexy. That's as close as I don't know, as a Scarish kind of platform as we're gonna
You
get.
know what? If you're
Scar
gonna drop,
actually is in at the RCMP getting it looked at right now.
they redid the receiver so that there's like a semi-auto only receiver.
Oh my God.
So that'd be pretty sweet. But you know, if you're gonna spend big coin on a rifle, why not get the best? Get the Swiss Arms. You know, I'm sure the used market will offer something below retail. I got lucky. I got mine from a guy who was, I can't remember his name, and I certainly wouldn't name on the podcast anyway, but he was involved with weapons procurement for law enforcement in Ontario, and he had a huge number of Swiss Arms that he was able to get at cost, and at cost when the Swiss government was still subsidizing production.
Yeah.
So he flipped the gun to me for $2,700 with the NEA lower, which at the time was like a $500 upgrade, including 8 LAR-15 magazines and a Magpul PRS stock. I sold the LAR-15 mags, I sold the PRS stock, and it also had a rail. I sold that, and I was net.
PRS stock on that. That's such a weird option.
Dude, it was sweet though. I actually regret selling it.
I would have kept that for my long range rifle, but like on an XCR, that's a weird option.
Yeah. Well, net 21.25 on a Swiss Arms rifle, black special. You can't argue with that.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Which is way better than the green one.
Now, what about
Sure.
the Fame? Because isn't that a copy, a Chilean copy?
Yeah, it's a licensed built base copy. Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Now,
Haven't handled one. I'm sure it's fine.
Interesting.
And Tyler, what do you have against the AT-15 mags?
Well, what had happened was these were the Gen 1 mags, and there was nothing wrong with the mags, but they were new, and they just sat a little bit high relative to the bolt carrier group, and the bolt carrier group rubbed on the feed lips of the mag.
So did it not go return to battery, or?
Well, you know, there'd be various failures of like one flavor of another, and after about 100 rounds, they kind of broke into each other, and everything was fine from there on out. But I just mean that like they kind of interrupted the flawless reputation of that gun.
Okay.
To feed things properly, you don't want to rub your bolt carrier on your feed lips. That's not good.
It's fine. Rub your bolt carrier on the feed lips. I'm sure it's not an issue.
Yeah. And you know what? If with rubbing issues, just add more lube, and then everybody will be happy.
Yeah.
Right? That's how you deal with friction.
That's right.
Just
More
add
lube. More lube equals happiness.
Yeah.
Bukkake.
Got that.
Or go over or go to the side of the room that doesn't have the pews on it, and that's for everything else.
I swear, get off of my show.
And the fisting guys are over in there.
No. Even my dog has had enough of your shit and he left.
But it's just a standard AR party.
The only standard party that I'm even remotely interested in is a pool party.
I can make that happen soon. With a barbecue.
All right. We're all over the board tonight. There is no rapid fire feedback. Remember, you can send me your hate mail at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Your cheers, they fuel me. If you want to get in touch with us on Facebook, that's facebook.com/CanadianPatriotPodcast.
You want to hear the hate mail?
Yeah. Do you have hate mail?
I do have hate mail. This is sent to me personally.
Uh-oh.
It says, funny how so many of the video thumbnails are you holding up an American beer can. That's sent from Tim to me. And I will say
that prick.
I will say that the so-called American beers, I'm drinking one now, Coors Banquet. I don't know where this is brewed, but most of the beers that I drink, like Bush, brewed in London, right here in Ontario.
Yeah, Molson's product. No, Labatt product.
And even so, most of these recipes are German, and they originated in towns that are now located in the Czech Republic. So,
yeah,
take your hate mail and fuck
Like
off.
Czechvar that became, or Budvar that became Czechvar that is now Budweiser or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my hate mail, just criticizing the thumbnails.
It's disappointing.
I'm
We'll work
sorry.
on the thumbnails.
Well,
Tyler, where's the best place for people to stay in touch with you?
Oh, let me pull up the show notes. You can find me at facebook.com/LibertyDeathPodcast with my podcast, the International Liber Death Podcast, or you can follow me on Instagram at Liberty Podcast. I don't really bother with Twitter, but the handle is the same at Liberty Podcast. I might occasionally post there. Other than that, you can find me personally. I don't, kind of hide my identity, Tyler Gerard. I'm on Facebook. I generally accept anybody unless you created your account a month ago and have 4 friends, from 4 different continents.
and are clearly ISIS.
Yeah, and are clearly ISIS.
But
So,
they're hot.
yeah.
Well, yeah. That's totally different though.
Obviously.
If they're
Well,
hot.
there's 72 hot ones. The rest are not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, 120 hot ones, and then,
2 or 3 ugly ones.
yeah. Anyway, so I'm easy to find, I'm easy to track down.
How about you, Gavin? Where can people stay in touch with you on the internet?
If you know any of these guys on Facebook, you can find me there. Otherwise, the best place to find me is on the Instagrams at urbex_GTA.
Grinder.
Yeah, well,
Grindr.
yeah. But, I mean, who isn't on Grindr these days? It's the new millennium, guys.
It is, in fact, the current year.
And I mean, come on, check out this sweet hat.
Craig, aside from Sexy Cop 69 on Grindr, do you have a public-facing
Yeah,
persona?
I do. Yeah, I do. Same thing as said before. I pretty well accept anybody if you just send me a message first on who you are, what you're interested in, and you don't have to agree with what I may post, but you're there to, just chat and listen and offer, a dialogue, not a monologue.
Exactly
And,
the same protocol as on Grindr.
Yeah, share glory hole locations, the standard,
Exactly. And then other than that, it'd be Andrew, get out of the car, get down on the ground.
Hey, you know what? You can find me traveling eastbound on Highway 89 early on Saturday mornings going to CFB Borden, and if you pull your gun on me and order me to the ground, I just might do it.
Yeah, I wonder if Craig was actually just in the bushes and this whole thing was just like an elaborate ruse, and Craig put his underlings up to it just to mess with you.
My underlings.
That would be epic, just to troll somebody before a match to make them shoot really bad.
I will pistol whip you so fucking hard.
Well, I do know the routes that he does travel. I know where he lives, and I know what his truck looks like, especially the front bumper.
It's
And if I ever
really
had-
hard to miss my truck. The giant gun stickers and the giant steel bumper on the front, I stand out in a crowd.
You mean the one with the iron cross on the front?
Yeah, it might have an iron cross in the front. What of it?
Yeah, so if I
So-
see that on the highway and I'm working, I'll have to tell my partner.
So, Craig,
We're not going to the call.
It's
We're gonna
almost
fuck with that
more
truck.
discreet than your
on,
last
on,
vehicle.
on Saturday, if you see a white truck that belongs to Jeff, happening to head towards Galt, I'm sure Tyler would appreciate if you mess with him a little bit.
I could try.
Whatever. I can take the heat.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the first
Nah,
time
he's a good
I've
guy.
had guns pointed at me. It's not going to be the last. Marty, do you have a social media personality?
No, I'm still waiting to see if the internet thing catches on.
As always, I'd like to apologize to Ron Giltaka for having to bump him this evening, and we'd like to remind our listeners that you are the true north, strong and free.
Oh,
And
hold
as
on.
Lieutenant... Oh, go ahead.
Before you kill the live feed, we were talking about M10 like an hour ago. The company is Italian.
Italian. Okay.
Also,
in case anyone
I
needs to.
I like that you went with, as always, I'd like to apologize to Rod Giltaka for bumping him this week.
It's 3 weeks in a row I've apologized to Rod.
Yeah.
You know what? I met Rod. He didn't
Such a
shake my
dick.
hand. Kinda on the guy.
So he'll keep getting bumped.
In the immortal words of Lieutenant Johnny Rico, Come on, you apes. You want to live forever?
Oh, fuck.